Ben, stop calling me boy.
What, huh? I'm
a man.
Just looking up bull stuff.
How's it going, everybody? Live stream. I think you can hear us. Our good friend KMA Barry said he heard the dramatic music, so that's good.
Wow.
A little forewarning here for all of our listeners in the state of Iowa. This may not be your favorite Ben Joravsky show today.
You guys suck, man. God dang, Iowa. Come on. Wow.
Our apologies, just a universal apology for our listeners in the state of Iowa today.
Oh, my God.
All right, your Ben Joravsky show.
The Hawkeyes. Good job. Heck of a job, Iowa.
Because we're talking about football, yes. Your Ben Joravsky show for Tuesday, February 4th is just moments away. But before we get into this, we need to thank the following unions for jumping on board and sponsoring this program. Unions like the International Association of Machinists and Aerospace Workers, Local 126 in District 8. The International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local 9, sponsored this program, as well as the International Union of Operating Engineers, Local 150. Couldn't do it without you, unions. Literally, thank you for sponsoring this program. And, of course, today's Ben Joravsky Show for Tuesday, February 4th is brought to you by our good friends at the Chicago Federation of Labor. Song of the day.
Like God. All right, here we go. How about this song? I heard it this morning. Rockin' chair, I want to be your rockin' chair. It's similar to Rock You Baby, but it's rockin' chair. I want to be your rockin' chair. Come on, D. That's the 1970s, folks. What a decade.
Song of the Day segment is numbered. The days are numbered, all right? The Ben Joravsky Show starts now. It is Tuesday, February 4th, and live from the Chicago Sun-Times Chicago Reader Studio on Racine Avenue, this is the Ben Joravsky Show. Today on the program, we're talking tonight's First Tuesday show with our Chicago Reader colleague, Maya Dukmasova. May Whiteside of the Flourish PAC returns, and we welcome back congressional candidate Anthony Clarke. And now your host, Chicago Reader columnist, Ben Joravsky.
Hello, everybody. Ben Joravsky here. We're calling this Heck of a Job Iowa Tuesday. And here's why. Great weekend. You have a good weekend, D?
Mm-hmm.
I had a good weekend. I'm glad you had a good weekend. One of the things I did, I started binging on Larry David.
Oh.
All right? I'm only 10 years late. So watching Curb Your Enthusiasm show. Then, of course, I'm trying to find someone to talk about it. But it's like, Ben, that was so old. Why do you even want to talk about that? And I can't find it. That's my problem. I'm always a little late. Okay? Not as late as Iowa, but I'm always a little late. And love Larry David. Watch the Super Bowl after watching all those Larry David episodes. Do you like Larry David?
I love Larry David.
Larry David is hilarious. LD is always getting in trouble. I can kind of relate to him a little bit. I'm always getting in trouble too. Anyway, Super Bowl Sunday. Love the Super Bowl. Was rooting for the Chiefs. Though all I could think about was my beloved Bears and how they had an opportunity to get the greatest quarterback in the world, Pat Mahomes, and instead they took Mitch Trubisky. So, it was kind of depressing watching the Super Bowl because I kept thinking he could have been a Bear. I get the feeling that Ryan Pace, the general manager of the Bears, if he could choose, he could watch he could watch Patrick Mahomes fling the ball, and then he would turn around and take you, D. I like this guy. I think he's got potential, Dr. D.
All right, I think that's our sports for today.
I'm not allowed to talk about sports. Anyway, woke up Monday. I was so excited. Iowa Caucus, the official launching of the election season, the first election on the calendar. Iowa says, we want to be first. We should be first. We're always first. We're going to be first. We're ready. I don't understand why Iowa would be first anyway. I don't want to, why don't we rotate it? We don't have the Super Bowl in the same city every year. We rotate it. So why don't you just No, it's got to be Iowa. Something weird about it. First of all, its state doesn't really bear any resemblance to, the basis of the Democratic Party, right? Or, it's like a mostly white state. Not quite sure why it would go first, but whatever. Tradition is tradition, right? They're going to go first. You'd think they'd get it right. I'm standing at the bowling. It was Monday night. I have my phone out. I'm telling all the guys at bowling, I'll explain to you what's going on. And all of a sudden, there's no results. No results coming in. Meanwhile, all these guys are coming up to me because I'm like the political expert at the bowling alley. And they need me to explain how a caucus works. You ever try to explain anything political, particularly something as complicated as a caucus, to a group of inebriated and stoned bowlers? It's like a different level of ignorance. Like the stone guys really zoom in on the details. They're like, wait a minute, man. And everybody doesn't get to vote? Or does everybody vote? And the drunk guys have no patience. You ever notice drunk guys? What? They start yelling, no, calm down. I'm trying to explain. Hurry up. I'm a drunk guy. Trying to explain this
I'm
stuff.
glad you said I'm a drunk guy at the end. Really nail that impression down. I don't know. That may sound like a drunk guy. I'm a drunk guy. Oh, thank you.
That's my drunk guy invitation. That's you, Pat the plumber. I'm drunk. Explain it. Hurry up. I got places. Where you got a party to go to? Anyway, stone guys are not much better. So, yeah, there we go. I'm waiting for the results to come in, and all of a sudden they're saying they're having computer troubles. It's quality control problems. And something you should know in my Monday Night Bowling League, it's crawling with techies. There's all these guys, what do they call millennials? Yes, millennials.
Oh, boy.
Millennials, and just the next generation up from millennials, the Xers, who've spent their lives working with computers. They know more about computers than anybody else. They're always making fun of me because I read a little pen, the old dinosaur reading the newspaper. Here's something you didn't know about computer techies, D. They're all front runners. Like I said, they make fun of me because I read a newspaper. Then something goes wrong with their beloved computers. They start passing the buck. So I'm going up to all these techies in the bowling alley. Could you explain what's going on? Well, Ben, I'm more in sales. I'm not really in the tech end of things. Oh, you're here. I'm in sales, Ben. I don't really understand what's going on with these computers. Anyway, I'm starting getting phone calls from Bernie Bros. Bernie Bros are freaking out. Bernie Bros, like, they still are upset because they think the 2016 election was stolen from them. Now they're absolutely convinced that the Democrats are up to the same tricks. The Democrats, are up to the same tricks. Ben, I told you. I'm getting the I told you. As soon as Bernie was winning, they're going to steal the election. Isn't that interesting? The computers don't work.
And they're stone cold sober, right?
Oh,
Not high, not drunk.
no, Bernie Bros are well, time out. A lot of the Bernie Bros are kind of mellow about it, or the Stone ones. Hey, man, that's how it goes, But the real Bernie Bro bros are fired up and angry, And the other thing they're angry at, I need your help on this one, D, because you watch TV more than I do. They're really angry at MSNBC. Did you watch their coverage last night at all?
I beforehand, yeah, I saw a little Chris Matthews. I don't like Bernie. Go!
You're heading into Bill Burke country. Just saying, with that invitation. So my Bernie Bro friends are all telling me that MSNBC is really biased against Bernie. They're like, Ben, you got to talk about this on the podcast. Well, I'm at a disadvantage because I didn't watch any MSNBC last night. Are they biased against Bernie?
Yeah. That Chris Matthews guy's like, Bernie can't be president. Bernie can't be president. Go!
Okay, time out. All right. So on the Ben Joravsky show, here's what we do. We get a Joe Biden guy, David Seaton, and we get a Bernie bro, Micah Utrick, okay? And they debate it. I go bring Bernie bros on. Got nothing against Bernie bros. In fact, I'm looking at a Bernie bro right now.
Me?
The doctor loves Bernie. So, D, you're telling me that MSNBC can't find themselves the equivalent of a Micah or a Miles? They can't get a Bernie bro?
Hey, I think they lost their number or something, or email. They couldn't find them.
There's Bernie bros all over the place, MSNBC. Oh, no. We're not Bernie bro. Yeah, all my Bernie bro friends are just going nuts. MSNBC is also, and that's the lefty station. That's how bad it is for my Democratic Party. Like, even the lefty station doesn't like Bernie bros. Anyway, the Bernie bros are really convinced that the computers was just a ruse to cover up the fact that Bernie won the election, and the Dems who run the Democratic Party don't want that word out. And then, of course, the Trumpsters at the bowling alley. Oh, God. Oh, Ben, that's a heck of a party you got there. Good party. Come on, man. Donald Trump knows how to run a country. The computers wouldn't break down if Donald Trump were running them. Trumpsters, MAGA hat wearing, raw meat eating people. And by the way, and then they come in. This is the
raw meat eating people.
Yeah, that's the Trumpsters. And the Trumpsters' big thing is, it's like they see that divide between the Bernie bros and the rest of the Dems, and they're like trying to exploit it. Yeah, they're stealing it from Bernie. Okay, I'm making an appeal to all Bernie bros out there. You know I love you, kind of one of you. Got tons of you in my studio all the time. Looking at one right now. Don't fall for the Trump BS. They don't like you. They don't like Bernie. They don't like your policies. If Bernie's the nominee, they'll start mocking you, making fun of you, making fun of him, calling him a commie. Don't fall for it. You got to be smarter than that, okay, Bernie bros? You know I love you, but you got to be a little smarter than to fall for that BS that Donald Trump is putting out there. Here's the deal, man. The way I look at. Oh, by the way, how about Pete Buttigieg?
Oh, my boy,
your boy. On one level, I got to give Buttigieg credit. Okay, there are no results. The computer's broken down. Even the techies at the bowling alley are baffled. I don't know, Pat. I'm more in sales anyway. Nobody understands anything, but you can't get a result. Somehow or other, the smartest people in Iowa, when it comes to computers, can't figure out what's the matter with their computer, can't get a result. Pete Buttigieg says, I know what I'll do. I'll declare victory. How can you declare victory? He goes, we won, and now it's on to New Hampshire. And by the way, that brought in a flood of calls from Bernie bros. People, did you see? Talk about Mayor P. He is a no good beep. I'm not allowed to swear on the Ben Joravsky show, but man, I was hearing. Listen, that was a slick move, Mayor Pete. Mayor Pete, look, Mayor Pete declaring victory. How can you declare victory when no votes have been counted? It's like me declaring victory. The Bears have won the Super Bowl, but they weren't even in the Super Bowl. So what? I just say the Bears won the Super Bowl. Mayor Pete thinks he's slick. The reality is this, folks. From what we can tell, early indications from all the rumblings, the top three out of Iowa in terms of the informal counts, and I don't know what order they're in because we have no official results, Bernie, Elizabeth Warren, and Mayor Pete. That's basically what I've heard, D, right? So that means that the lefty wing of the Democratic Party has at least a majority in Iowa, which is not exactly the lefty state. And yet, somehow or other, Mayor Pete's declaring victory? I tell you what, that is one slick dude, Mayor Pete. Here's my message to centrists. We have centrists on this show as well. We're not just open to Bernie bros. My message to centrists is this. It's pretty clear that Joe Biden's campaign is going nowhere. It's pretty clear that Mayor Pete's campaign isn't going to go anywhere. It's pretty clear that Amy Klobuchar's campaign isn't going to go anywhere. I say you put all your money on Bloomberg. That's my advice to centrists. If you're going to have a centrist candidate, make sure it's a billionaire. Dude, this guy's got so much money, he makes J.B. Pritzker look broke. He makes J.B. Pritzker look like me, D. He's broke, okay?
I don't know about that.
So just go with the billionaire. Go with the man who has $59 or $60 billion, and he's ready to spend $5 to $10 billion or whatever it takes. And here's the funny thing. If the Dems do nominate Michael Bloomberg, and if Michael Bloomberg spends $5 billion or whatever it is to defeat Donald Trump, you know what you'll hear, D? You'll hear so much sobbing, so much crying from Republicans.
What will that sound like?
It's not fair. The Dems ran $1 billion. Remember how they cried about Pritzker? Oh, it's not fair. Man, look, Republicans, you're the one who wanted no lids on campaign financing. You're the ones who said that it's free speech. So you thought you had it all locked up, calls all the billionaires were in your side. I don't know, man. If I'm a centrist Dem, I'm voting for Bloomberg. Because what the heck? If you're just going to go right down the middle, you might as well go with the guy who's got the most money to bury the side and leave the Republicans in tears. We got a great show today, everybody. Maya Dukmasova is going to be in the studio. She's so fired up about Iowa, D. Oh, my God.
And she's fired up about tonight's First Tuesday show. At the Hideout.
Yes, at the
live.
Live.
It's 6:30.
6:30. Who are the guests again?
Carlos Ramirez Rosa, and Brandon. Why am I forgetting his last name? Johnson.
Very good.
Can't believe I forgot his last name.
Too much reefer. And what Carlos will be representing who?
Bernie Sanders.
And Brandon Johnson will be representing who?
Elizabeth Warren.
There we go. Hey, come on. I like Elizabeth Warren. You know what, Bernie Bros, you're too hard on Elizabeth Warren. There, I said it. Elizabeth Warren, you know what Bernie Bros always tell me? Well, Ben, Elizabeth Warren used to be a Republican. Well, she's not a Republican anymore. I mean, I don't get that. Why is that bad that she used to be a Republican and she evolved out of her? Donald Trump used to be a Democrat. Doesn't seem to bother Republicans, does it? They love Donald Trump now.
Yeah, Bernie supporters, stop being so supportive, would you? For one candidate. What do you think? This is an election? Get behind all the others.
Wait, hold on. I think he's making a pretty good point. Hold on. It's kind of ironic, that point he's making. Hold on. Let me get out the bong. Oh,
okay,
yeah.
We got
makes a lot of sense. Anyway, May will be here. May Whiteside will be here from Chicago Flourish. And I'm going to ask May about Iowa and the importance of black women in the process. I'm throwing it out there. Any Democratic candidate who runs against Donald John Trump should have a black woman as his or her vice presidential candidate. Yes, I said it, and it's true. And Anthony Clarke, the man to call AC. He's running for Congress in the 7th Congressional. Last week we had Keena Collins on. Now Anthony Clarke's turn. Pride and Joy of Oak Park will be in the studio at 2:30. I'm sure he'll be talking Iowa. He's a young guy. He's a millennial, D. He could maybe help those Democrats out with their computers. They need someone. Just seems like all the tech guy can't. I'm more in the sales end, Ben. Okay. When things go bad, everybody's in the sales end. Anyway, we have a great show. Plenty of political talk ahead of us. Before we do any of that, the young man from Alton, the man they call Dr. Doobie, with the news.
How's it going, everybody? What the hell happened in Iowa last night? Still not sure. But we do know what's happening in Chicago and/or Illinois this afternoon. Yes, the Iowa bashing continues on the Ben Joravsky Show, and it looks like our Illinois governor is getting in on the fun as well. I think it's safe to say that the Hawkeye State has a big problem on their hands, Ben. One, you know how Governor J.B. Pritzker feels about big problems.
Big problems become big problems when you let small problems sit.
Hold on, man.
Yes.
That's some deep stuff.
J.B. Wan, Kenobi, Pritzker has a solution. We don't want this problem getting any bigger now, do we? And that solution is to hell with Iowa.
Yeah.
Have the first Democratic presidential primary of the election season right here in Illinois. Hey, when you're governor, sometimes you got to throw your neighboring states under the bus, all right? So after it became apparent last night that no one knew what the hell was going on, Governor Pritzker addressed the Caucus raucous on Twitter. Pritzker said, quote, "If you're looking for a state whose people represent the diversity of America, look no further than Illinois. It's time for the most representative state in the country to be the first in the nation." He then linked a 2016 NPR story that lists Illinois as, quote, "the perfect state to host the first Democratic presidential contest." Pritzker spokesperson Ann Caprara added that Illinois is, quote, "the most representative of the rest of the country. We have a rural population, urban population, and representation of literally every ethnic group in the country in all sorts of business and manufacturing. It makes sense that Illinois should help decide who the Democratic nominee is." Ben Joravsky, your thoughts on all this? Is this a good idea?
Yes. YES, in my humble opinion. I can't wait to hear what all our guests say today. But all the reasons stated. The most NPR had it first? I did not know that. I'm going to have to show them a little love now. NPR had it first, huh? And Pritzker cites NPR to show that there's some support for it. Absolutely, I'm for it. What he said was so true. And we just talking about the downstate, upstate divide that we talk about on this show all the time. So, you'd have a candidate who have to reach out downstate, and candidate have to make appeals to Chicago. It would be much like the gubernatorial primary of 2018, which J.B. Pritzker was victorious in, because he showed that he could go to all different areas of the state. So the diversity in the state of Illinois absolutely makes it more representative than Iowa, and it would be a great thing for us. Could you imagine how cool it would be if Illinois were all these candidates were coming in the studio? Ben, I love your show. I'm a huge fan of Dr. Doobie. Yeah, man, let's move it up. Let's move Illinois. Iowa, I never understood why I was always the top of the list. I remember trying to explain it to my kids years ago. Well, why? Don't really know the answer to that one. There's a lot of questions out there I cannot answer. It just
Well, you see,
is.
you put your right foot in and your right foot out. Then you put your right foot back in and you shake it all about.
Plus, we have better computer techies in Iowa. I'm baffled. I'm more in sales. Did I tell you that? I'm more in the sales end of things.
Well, you grab your partner, do-si-do, over to the candidate that you like.
Unbelievable. It's like a broken app. I never heard of a broken app. You ever heard of a broken app, D?
Yeah.
Okay, maybe there's more familiar.
Technical difficulties.
We're having technical difficulties. We have technical difficulties on the show we call Brian. Brian Ernst comes here and fixes them, right? They should send Brian down to Iowa.
We've gotten a good streak lately. We haven't had Brian come in a while.
Touch wood.
Now, at the moment, the Illinois primary is still set for March 17th, and it will more than likely remain on March 17th, but we've learned how this DNC works in the last couple of years. If J.B. Pritzker, the richest politician in America, really wants to have Illinois host the nation's first primary election, well, there is one way you can get it done. You know what I'm talking about, Bloomberg?
I have to correct that statement. He is not the richest politician in America, J.B. Pritzker. Michael Bloomberg is way richer than J.B. Pritzker.
Okay.
So that's why I say centrists out there, Democratic centrist. All right? Not speaking to my Bernie bro fans and followers and friends. I'm not speaking to Elizabeth Warren supporters. I'm just saying, if you're a centrist, why are you wasting your time with Biden, Klobuchar, or Buttigieg? You go for the billionaire. I don't understand. It's not that difficult. Okay? It's not rocket science, as they say, huh, D? Rocket science. It's the billionaire. He's got the most money. Bernie and Elizabeth Warren have the most supporters. Bernie and Elizabeth Warren will have people who will go knock on doors. Joe Biden doesn't have anybody knocking on a door. Pete Buttigieg doesn't have anybody knocking on a door. Amy Klobuchar doesn't, So if you're not going to get door knockers, get the next best thing. TV commercials. And that's my advice to centrists. Go with Bloomberg. And now, as far as everybody else, better knock on doors because Bloomberg's got a lot of money.
Oh, and if Illinois were to ever get that, the first primary election in the nation, to all the politicians, if that were to happen, no bribery, please. My God.
I don't know. Bribery is part of the Illinois tradition.
And speaking of, moving on, in city news, we have an update on the indicted 14th Ward alderman. Yes, the guy who shook down a Burger King in his ward, Alderman Ed Burke. The following comes from the Chicago Sun-Times and John Seidel. Alderman Edward Burke could be going to trial sometime in the middle of next year, 2021. But the judge presiding over his case declined Tuesday to set a hard trial date. So just hang back for a year, Burke. Keep being a corrupt alderman, and in the meantime, we'll have ourselves a trial. Sound good? Good.
All right, I have a question for you, Dave.
Okay.
In your humble opinion.
What?
And you could probably place a bet on
I
this
like
in
Burger
Vegas.
King more than McDonald's.
No, that was not the question. Oh, that's a good question. And my question to you is this: What will come first? Alderman Ed Burke's trial, or the computer techies in Iowa fixing their computers? What do you think, huh?
Oh, it's 2021, right?
Yeah,
Burke's trial.
Computer guys in Iowa. The wire here and the wire there, and I got a guy named Merlin here in Illinois, Iowa. This guy is unbelievable. He helps me fix my computer. I call him up on the phone. All right, take me through it, Ben. They should call Merlin. He'll fix it.
Wait, these numbers keep saying Sanders won. There must be something wrong. There must be something up with this.
Yeah, isn't that funny?
There has to be something wrong. This
Bernie
is
wins.
Sanders.
I've never seen anything like this. It's the app. Bernie's winning. The app just wins.
Wait, hold. B. Sanders? Is that running back? No, that's Barry. No, what?
Yeah, they're going to declare Barry Sanders the winner in Iowa. Anything to keep Bernie from winning. Oh, God. They don't like Elizabeth Warren much either, D. Let's be honest.
And finally, Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot.
This little light of mine, I'm going to let it shine.
Oh,
You
Lord,
certainly are.
Lightfoot.
You certainly are letting it shine. It hasn't even been a whole month, but the mayor goes back to Washington. Yeah, she was just there.
Loves what? Wait, D. What does she love more, Washington or luncheons?
Oh, boy. We're never getting another interview with this woman. Luncheons.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Hasn't even been a whole month, but the mayor goes back to Washington. The last time she was at a get-together with her mayoral peers at an annual meeting. This trip makes a lot less sense, especially when you're the mayor of a city our president constantly trash talks. Lori Lightfoot is in the nation's capital to attend President Donald Trump's State of the Union address. We talked about this on Friday. Ben, what were your thoughts again?
Well, I don't understand why she's doing it. Now, Ben Joravsky show, like I said, we're open to a lot of different views. David Seaton was Seaton was articulating that it was a good idea for Lori Lightfoot to go to Washington and mingle with the powerful people and show that, she's a player in the game. I'm a player in the game. Who is that? I'm a player in the game. All right, let's not even go there. It's somebody, but I just can't remember who it is. Anyway, so she wants to go. She wants to show she's a player in the game, and so that's one point of view. I do not know why she would go and sit in the audience and risk being abused by Donald John Trump. Donald Trump uses Chicago to fire up his base. Chicago symbolizes everything that Donald Trumpsters are against. It's diverse. Everything that makes Illinois perfect for a primary is why the MAGA hatters hate Chicago.
That's correct.
Although it's interesting, Trump hates Chicago, but he loved Eddie Burke when he needed a lawyer to get a break on his taxes. Isn't that interesting? And he loved Mayor Rahm. Remember when he kicked 50 grand to Mayor Rahm? I love Mayor Rahm. Yeah. So it's interesting. Donald Trump sort of picks and chooses when he loves and hates Chicago. He loves Rahm and he loves Eddie Burke, but he hates the people of Chicago. So Chicago is everything that Donald Trump is not. It's diverse. It's integrated. Well, at least it has black and white people living in it. They don't usually live together in the same areas. But it's everything that he's against. It's a union town. He's against unions. So I don't know why Lori Lightfoot would go there and want to subject herself to Chicago bashing. Listen, you're not allowed to say his name anymore in the city of Chicago because you know how it goes in Chicago. Once you're out, they just throw you under the bus and forget you even exist. That's the great Chicago way. Pretend he never was here. But there was a certain police chief in the city of Chicago. His name was Eddie Johnson. I know we're not allowed to talk about him, D, because he was seen in a bar with a woman other than his wife. Oh my God, Chicago was like, I'm shocked. And then Chicago tried to say, oh, well, it wasn't that he was in the bar with someone other than his wife, but did I tell you he was in the bar with someone other than his wife? Anyway, they just go on and on about that. They kicked him out. They threw him out. He's no good. Forget that he ever existed, even though, he was the front man that enabled Rahm to escape with a sliver of credibility after Laquan McDonald. Anyway, he's disposable. That's how we do with people in the city of Chicago. Oh, just forget he even existed. But Eddie Johnson, let's give him some love, D. When Donald Trump, Maya has entered the building. She's all fired up.
Focus, Ben, focus.
When Eddie Johnson, now I know we're not allowed to talk about him. I know he's the persona non grata in the city of Chicago. You get rid of him. But when Donald Trump came to Chicago, D, you remember this, to give a speech to some law enforcement group? Eddie Johnson wouldn't have anything to do with it. He boycotted it because he knew that Donald Trump was using Chicago as a symbol to fire up his base that hates cities like Chicago that have people that look differently than they do in them. And so I gave Eddie Johnson a lot of love for that. And then about 2 weeks later, they threw him out the door. But I don't know why Lori Lightfoot doesn't take a page from Eddie Johnson's book and just don't show up. I don't see any point in her.
Cafe instead. Go to Sirius Cafe instead. Get drunk.
Go to Sirius Cafe instead.
Make some mistakes.
Eddie Johnson jokes.
So there you are, guys. Yeah. Lori Lightfoot attending the State of the Union address. Maybe some advice on the live stream if you're listening on the live stream. What advice can we give Lori Lightfoot as she attends Donald Trump's State of the Union address? Maybe if Donald Trump starts trashing Chicago, she's sitting right there. What can she do? Maybe some advice would be.
Well, I remember
she listens to the show, so she's going to be reading the live stream chat.
Yeah, that is true. Lori, if he starts trashing Chicago, stand up and turn your back to him.
There you go. Any other advice would be greatly appreciated on the live stream.
She can throw a Chicago dog at him.
There you go.
Or she could do what Spike Lee did at the Oscars when, what was the Green Book won. He was so outraged, he stood up and goes, that stinks, and got up and walked out, I think. So if she could do that.
All right. Well, before we go to Maya here, let's read some of our thoughts here on the live stream chat. Let's see here. Kyle weighed in. Kyle says, well, that's depressing. Ben telling the electorate to claim Felty. I don't know. What's that word mean?
Oh, he's saying it's because Bloomberg. I said this. I say this again. I'm speaking to my centrist listeners. Okay? Maya immediately starts laughing. Why are you wasting your time with Joe Biden, Pete Buttigieg, or Amy Klobuchar? If you're a centrist, go for the centrist with the most money. I'm just saying it makes the most sense. Go for Bloomberg. If you're a centrist, what difference? You cannot tell me a dime's worth of difference on policies between Bloomberg, Biden, Klobuchar, and Buttigieg. All right? Am I right? I'm right. Okay? So if there's no difference, why not go to the one with the most money? Just, I don't know, makes logical sense to me.
Kyle weighed in again. He was referring to your opening here. He says, drunk guys, stoners, and tech guys. Good Lord, your bowling league sounds like it's in hell. And then you mentioned Trumpers. You got Trumpers there, too.
Oh, my God. It's a diverse slot at the bowling league. All those. And then, as I pointed out, Maya, tech people are worthless when the computers go down. You know, like half of them at the bowling alley.
Is that the only time they're worthless?
You know, wow.
Sorry. You just left it out there.
And then Bruce says, oh, good Lord, Ben's a Bloomberg bro.
No.
Wow.
I'm not a Bloomberg bro. I'm simply stating the obvious. If you're a centrist, you should go with the centrist who has the most money.
You were for the soda tax, Ben. I don't know. The guy's got a point.
Correct. I can't remember. Was I for the soda tax? No,
you were definitely for the soda tax,
No.
but not for the reasons Bloomberg was for it.
I actually can't remember.
Oh, boy, you can't
You were
remember.
for the concept of there needs to be more tax revenue for Cook County.
Yeah, but I said it was a regressive tax. I wanted more progressivity in the taxes. As I recall, I brought Richard Boykin on my show several times to discuss that. So, no, I think, I was against the soda pop. Oh, I remember Sue Garza, alderwoman of the 10th Ward, coming on my old show and just reaming out the soda pop tax. They're all going to Indiana. Remember that?
Sorry to muddy the waters.
Yes, that's okay. But no, anyway, if you're a centrist, go with Bloomberg. That's my advice.
We're going to keep you posted on these local stories as today's program rolls along. Don't go anywhere. Maya Dukmasova will be joining us. We're going to be talking about First Tuesday. It's tonight, everybody, at the Hideout. Get your tickets if you haven't yet. We'll be right back with the Ben Bloomberg Bro Joravsky Show in moments.
Read the Chicago Reader to get up to speed on what's what in Chicago. Culture, food, arts and entertainment, weekly concert listings, weekly event listings, the environment, travel. I can continue, but you get the point. And for all of you Chicago political junkies, raw weekly columns on real city politics from Maya Dukmasova and our very own Ben Joravsky. The Chicago Reader, free to the public in newsstands throughout the city and online at chicagoreader.com. Read it now and be a more informed Chicagoan.
My question for the state's attorney is she going to recuse herself now from the case where her campaign chair / treasurer has been arrested? And will she step aside in that case? It's as simple as that. And she was arrested, last week sometime on what has happened in another election matter. So I'd like to know what she's going to do in that case.
Response?
She no longer works for the campaign.
And she's taken her name off of everything? And are you
Attorney
going to recuse yourself?
The Attorney General's office will be handling that case.
Okay. And it's been sent over as of today?
The Attorney General's office was made aware of that case immediately upon her arrest.
Thank you. We're going to move on to...
Did you know that 40% of the people in Illinois opt to be cremated? Well, it's true. And Chicagoland Cremation Options honors their wishes by providing cremation services directly to the general public. Chicagoland Cremation Options provides an affordable, ethical, and easy cremation arrangement, whether in person or online. Save thousands and streamline the process by going directly to Chicagoland Cremation Options. It's a family-owned business operated by my good friend Douglas Klein. Here's how you reach them: Chicagoland Cremation Options.com. One more time: ChicagoLandCremationOptions.com.
Commercial break over. Welcome back to the Ben Joravsky Show, live from the Chicago Sun-Times.
You know, Maya, they're really giving me grief on the online show. I simply said, I think this is indisputable.
You're not going to live it down.
If you're a centrist, you should vote for Bloomberg. If you're a centrist, right?
Yeah. No, do not put me in that position.
If you're a centrist.
I don't know what I'm. No, I don't want to.
If you were a centrist, who would you vote for? Don't duck and dodge.
If I were a centrist.
Yes.
God, my skin is crawling thinking about this. I would vote for Andrew Yang if I was a centrist.
Well, I think of Andrew Yang as more of the lefty persuasion. By the way, this is a little known fact, and we're not going to go down this rabbit hole, but Andrew Yang's campaign was effectively launched by his appearance on the Joe Rogan Show. A lot of people don't know that. Andrew Yang went on the Joe Rogan Show, got about a 90-minute interview, D? Something like that. I only watched about the first half hour of it. And it was after that contributions started flooding into Andrew Yang's campaign, which has kept him on the debate stage for I don't know how many months it's been. So I just view Andrew Yang, right? I guess that's an acceptable answer, but I view Andrew Yang as more on the lefty side of the equation. A real centrist is one who, views things in electability, and so that means you have to have been elected to some other office. You have to have a title in front of your name. You have to have already compromised on important legislation where you're sold out your democratic values in order to show that you're bipartisan. Andrew Yang is a rookie. He's never served office. He's never had to do anything like that.
Well, okay, who do you consider to be in the centrist camp? Amy Klobuchar, Bloomberg?
Amy Klobuchar, Bloomberg, Buttigieg, Biden, of the people. Bennett, I guess. Is he still running? I guess Michael Bennett. But those are the five. And then the lefties, the real lefties are Bernie and Warren. And Yang is... I put him more in the left side of things. I mean, his chief policy is redistribution of money, so...
I'll tell you what. Maybe I'll regret saying this later. And I honestly, I shouldn't even be saying this, and you shouldn't be putting me in this position. But push come to shove, I think I'd vote for Biden over Pete Buttigieg.
Oh, you're going to say something radical. Oh, my God. Whoa, Maya. Oh, my God. Hell yeah. Are you kidding? Oh, my God.
So if I were a centrist, I guess I'd vote for Joe Biden.
I don't know. Listen, Pete Buttigieg, I'm having a hard time. Henry Davis came on this show, and that was it. Pete Buttigieg grew up in South Bend, Indiana, all right? And then all of a sudden when he's running for president of the United States, discovers that there's school segregation. Didn't learn this until relatively late in life, that the schools are segregated. I mean, I can't take the guy serious, Maya.
Well, speaking of which, do you want to talk about what's happening with these caucus results?
Yes.
And this app? Are you following this?
Yes. Well, I haven't followed it in the last 40 minutes, so give me the...
Neither have I. I was driving over here.
Okay.
So,
but what's the latest?
I mean, the latest is that it's still completely unclear what's going on, but it's looking like people tied to Mayor Pete and his campaign are investing in somehow in some kind of relationship with the company that created this app, a company that was also started by a bunch of Hillary people. The former Hillary campaign people started this company called, what is it, Shadow? Jesus. So,
well, that's a good name.
I feel like this is like a really bad sci-fi paperback. This is like so bad. So this app that is being used by the Democratic Party to collect caucus results is tied to Mayor Pete through these financial channels. And I mean, honestly, you know what? I don't even want to confuse anybody. I just want to, the information that I have. This is from Andrew Fang. Let me pull this up. I know you don't like it when I'm on my phone in here, but I just don't want to say.
No, you want to get it right. I appreciate that.
No, people, because I'm going to just say something that's going to be like not quite correct, and then somebody's going to get confused and it's a broken telephone.
Yes.
All right. So this is from Li Fang from The Intercept. So he says 3 different sources say a firm called Shadow developed the Iowa Dem Caucus app. They haven't responded to comment. Neither has Iowa Dem Party. This is from yesterday, by the way. So there's been a little bit more since this. The firm was paid by both Nevada and Iowa Democratic Party, because as you might recall, Nevada also has a caucus system, and also by Mayor Pete's campaign. So, and somebody has pulled up that the website for this thing called Shadow, it says that, what is acronym? Acronym is the thing started by a bunch of Hillary people. So anyway, so there's some of the funders of this thing that are politically connected have now changed their website to make it seem like they were just investing in this company, when an earlier version of the website that you can look up through the Wayback Machine says that they were that they launched this company, that they were running this company that was creating the app. So there's something weird going on with how many politically connected people are connected to this app that's supposed to be telling us what the vote numbers
in Iowa.
Yeah.
And so there's many problems with the Iowa caucus itself. Just the notion, first of all, it comes first.
Yeah.
Secondly, it's a caucus. Thirdly, Iowa is not representative of many of the Democratic Party, really, when you think about the diversity of the Democratic Party. All these problems with Iowa coming first. And now,
like, its legitimacy is already on thin ice.
Yes.
And now, every time its legitimacy is so highly questionable. It makes this country look like a feudal state. Like the world watching this thing happen is like, what? What is this? And now, its legitimacy could not be any further in the gutter.
Yeah.
Because of this whole technological problem, the messaging from the Iowa Democratic Party, how they're not answering questions. What is it? What quality control issues? What is this, a meat packing plant? Like,
yeah. No, I hear you. I was having fun with this earlier before you got here, trying to explain to people or find an explanation last night in real time as this malfunction was occurring. And it brought me back memories. This is long before either of you guys, I think, were in Chicago in 2006. We had a malfunction of the vote counting machines here in Cook County that affected the race for, Cook County board president. And the Republicans immediately started screaming. It was Tony Perica was running. Immediately started screaming that the Dems were stealing it from them. And so this is an easy assumption to leap to. When we have a breakdown, a technological breakdown, which seems inexplicable. To your point, Iowa is not coming forth with any kind of explanation that's adequate. And it's beyond their capabilities to fix, which is just really the funniest thing. Because, like, as I was teasing Dennis, when we have a breakdown here in the show, we call Brian the IT genius here at the Sun-Times.
So does Iowa. They're also calling Brian. That's actually what's happening. So
Brian's in the car going down I-80 right now. I'm coming, Iowa. Man, Iowa, that's a trick bag. So all these things are going on, and it leads to two claims of malfeasance. So many Bernie bros that I know, Maya, including some very close to where you're sitting right now, are absolutely convinced. That one.
What?
Are absolutely convinced. And I had many phone conversations with Bernie bros last night, including some who are women, that they call themselves Bernie bros. Okay,
not the hot girls from Bernie.
No.
Okay.
This is like,
separate.
I'm a Bernie bro. Okay.
I believe we've called them Sanders sisters.
I call them Sanders sisters, but they want to be known as Bernie. Anyway, whatever. They're Bernie supporters, and they just cannot believe that it's just coincidental that on the night their guy, who's reviled by pretty much everybody in the Democratic Party of the Dem persuasion the night their guy is about to claim the victory in the all-important state of Iowa. The computers break down. You get what I'm saying? It just
and the thing is that like this is like the perfect fertilizer for like insane conspiracy theories, because there's just enough of a realistic chance of this being like a targeted, you know, campaign, whatever, interference campaign from Russia, hacker stuff, like, you know, political corruption stuff, like all of this, like all of everything that we're hearing could be true and none of it could be true. And it's like it's like impossible right now to unpack what and why is this happening. Also, like all of this could be like, the problem could be really, really, truly just a technical, mechanical problem somewhere, and that there's no bad faith or bad play or bad intentions anywhere in all of this. But like, every minute that goes by that there's not clarity on this issue, like the conspiracy theories are growing like mold. They're just, you know, they're like, and I can't even imagine like what is going on. Like, what are people on the right, like, watching this? Like, what's going on over there?
I know what they're going on. I read the right, okay?
Right.
So I'm like, I make a point of reading the right. And there's two themes that they're putting out. I already heard it at the bowling alley last night from all the Trumpsters there.
Yeah.
Theme number one is that it just shows you how inept the Democrats are, and that's why you need Donald John Trump to run the country. This would never happen with Donald John Trump, okay? That's theory number one. He's in charge. They're not. They're inept. He can handle anything.
That's like how people talk in Russia about Putin. Like, that's how it is.
Well, there's a reason Donald Trump and Putin have so much in common,
Yeah.
okay? And why he loves Putin with the adoration he has. And I'll say this for Putin. When it came to hacking those Democratic computers, he didn't mess around with Brian from IT. He hacked those.
Yeah, when his election fraud is impeccably executed.
Absolutely. So there's that theory. And then there's their favorite, which you will read, I'm sure, in the Tribune with your good friend John Cass will be airing it, which is they'll be trying to take advantage of the discontent that we've been talking about and the feeling of Bernie supporters that they don't get the respect they need, and that the Democratic Party hates Bernie, and the Democratic Party will do anything to keep Bernie from being the nominee, and they'll fan those flames. And it's classic politics. You see a wedge, you see a divide on the other side, and you just play at it and you rub it. And so you'll see the MAGA hat wearers talking about Bernie bros being unfairly treated, and like they care about Bernie bros. Like any one of those MAGA hat wearers has ever once in his or her life raised his or her hand to do anything remotely resembling pushing for something social justice. You know what I'm saying? Like Bernie is supposed to represent redistribution, breaking down the walls of social inequity, getting health care for everybody, getting education for everybody. Every one of these MAGA hat wearers has been against that their whole life. They've been on the wrong side of history their whole life, Maya. But now, when it comes to like taking advantage of that divide in the Democratic Party, they'll, oh my God, they don't like Bernie. Meanwhile, Trump tweets this stuff. He tweets, they're trying to steal it from Crazy Bernie. He calls him Crazy Bernie. He can't even get his messages straight, you know? You got to show some sympathy. Anyway, so those are the two themes that the Trumpsters are playing.
Yeah, I mean, it's also like, I don't know. I was listening to today's episode of the New York Times podcast that was all about yesterday in Iowa. And one of the things that was really, I mean, first of all, another reason why the Iowa caucus is like awful is because this is like, it's not just a non-representative state. It's like the way that the caucus system is set up is that it's more accessible to well-to-do white people and not like shift workers and not, you know, and not people who have irregular schedules because they're living in an economically precarious situation. Like all of it is set up to sort of center and advantage like middle class white people.
In other words,
basically.
if you don't have to go to work between 7 and 9 o'clock on a Monday night.
Yeah.
People who do not have to be at work.
And you have a car because, it's Iowa. So like lots of places, it's not, you can't like easily access this. Like you have to drive there, whatever. So, but I was listening to the episode of The Daily and there were interviews with some people, like some of them were kind of elderly, and they were just describing sort of how, there's like a first round, and if in your caucus site, the person that you came there to support doesn't get more than 15% of the votes of the people in the room, then those people have to go to choose someone else. And there were people who were like leaving after the first round, and they had one lady on there who was just saying like, I am like exhausted and I don't know what to pick, and like I wanted to vote for Joe Biden and I don't know. It was like this.
It's the most imperfect way to determine a victor. I've sat through an Iowa caucus. I was there in 2008 when Obama was victorious.
Yeah.
And I watched the procedure. On one level, it's fascinating and fun to watch. I wrote a column for the Reader going, wow, imagine if we chose a mayor this way. Yes, there's that second voting, that round of second voting, where the people, they're free agents. The people who voted for a candidate that didn't meet the 15% threshold are open to the solicitation of the other camps. And I watched as Hillary Clinton, you'll get a kick out of this one. I think it was a Hillary Clinton supporter from 2008 trying to convince, I think it was a Joe Biden. Joe Biden was running for president in 2008.
People forget.
Yeah, people forget. A Joe Biden supporter, why he or she should caucus with Hillary and not Barack Obama on the grounds that Barack Obama was tied up to this horrible scandal in Chicago involving a gentleman named Tony Resco. And I'm sitting there, I'm the only guy in the room who knows all these players, thinking, oh my God, here I am in Booneytown, Iowa, and I'm hearing someone trying to scare a Biden voter away from Obama with Resco. You know what I'm saying?
Well, and the other thing too is like this whole thing, like the way this is a media circus, like the spectacle of it, the confusion. It's already confusing, but now the additional confusion around this very confusing process. Like, I just feel like it really disheartens a lot of people and really creates the impression that it doesn't matter whether or not you engage, who knows whether your vote counts, whether the results are going to be legitimate. Like it's all bad.
Yeah.
Like it's just all bad. It's all bad sauce, and and I feel like the longer this confusion is going to go on, the more it's going to, the conspiracy theories are going to flourish. And speaking of which, this brings me to my article this week, because by the way, we have a local election here, March 17th. We've got a primary election. We've got some very important races. There's a bunch of state house, state senate, congressional seats up for election. There's the state's attorney's office. Kim Foxx is running for re-election. There's the Cook County clerk of the circuit court. Dorothy Brown's out of that position for the first time in 20 years. That's another important race. So I did a story. This is in last week's issue of The Reader, which folks can still find around until Thursday in the boxes, and it's also online. It's actually really about this. It's about how when the mechanics of a process are not very clear, this space gets filled with conspiracy theories. And your friend Adolfo Mondragon,
frequent guest on this show.
Yeah, frequent guest on this show.
Although he hasn't been here in a while.
Yeah, so he's an election attorney in general. He called me up and he explained that there was this situation with the candidate he was representing, Froy Jimenez, who's running against Tony Munoz in the first state senate district. So basically, he couldn't understand why his campaign Jimenez had filed his petition to get on the ballot. There was he had more than 2,000 signatures. You need 1,000 to get on the state senate ballot. And then there were objections filed by people tied to the Tony Munoz camp, pretty standard. And when the objection was served to the Froy Jimenez campaign so they could prepare to fight it, this is like a whole process for how you go about arguing about whether the signatures are valid or not. Froy Jimenez's campaign received 2 different versions of the objection. One copy had more objections on it than the other. And this probably sounds confusing to people, so I just urge everyone to read the story. It's like a very in the weeds situation, and it's like already weedy enough if you read it, but like hearing it, it's I'm sure it's,
I've been there trying
confusing.
to explain in the weed stories.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but like the point is that as the theory that people had about what might have happened is like, what if the reason why we have these 2 different copies is because somebody connected to Tony Munoz or the objector that was just connected with Tony Munoz struck a shady deal with a state board of election worker to timestamp an objection at one time and then refile it later with more signature challenges, because like with a beefed up version basically of. And I in the story I explain this whole theory in more detail. So
You take that deep dive.
Right. So, but this theory, this kind of conspiracy theory essentially is completely believable in the realm of Chicago politics.
Yes.
This is the kind of thing that happens here all the time. This, this whole David Krupa, Madigan, Marty Quinn thing in the 13th Ward last time around. Like, you know what I mean? Like anything could happen. So you hear a conspiracy theory like that, you're like, could that happen? Probably, But as I got deeper into it, trying to figure out what other possible explanations there could be for this discrepancy, a much more likely and reasonable explanation presented itself that had to do with like basically how the state board requires people to file copies and who has to make those copies and what time people bring those copies. And like, it's sort of, you have to kind of think about it in Occam's razor terms, like, maybe it's the simplest explanation is the best one. And so I lay out in the story like what the simplest explanation for all of this could be and why it's highly unlikely that the conspiracy theory is true. But still, just the fact that, Froy Jimenez's campaign like didn't know how, like what the actual steps were, like what the process was by which logically they could have gotten these 2 disparate copies. The immediate thought was like, there's some kind of foul play. And I don't blame them at all, especially not in this city, especially not in the way that politics are played dirty by incumbents against, challenger candidates like Froy. But like, take that tiny little thing, this tiny little story. And by the way, Froy made it on the ballot. Like, there weren't enough objections in the quote unquote beefed up version of this objection to knock him off either. But like, take this tiny little story and then like multiply it to like the presidential election.
Well, the stakes are so high.
Yeah.
And you're absolutely correct. I know, and I can tell you this, that my next guest, Mae Whiteside, is here. My next guest, Mae Whiteside, is here. I believe she's right outside the door. But I will tell you this, that in Illinois and in Chicago and in Cook County, the knee-jerk reaction of anybody who's losing, if they lose at the board level, the election board level, and they kicked off the ballot, if they lose at the ballot place itself by the voters, is to blame the machine. I've heard people who are part of the machine blame the machine. I've heard David Axelrod, okay?
Machinist.
Who made his name, he really took off into the stratosphere when he cut the deal and went to work for Daley. He had worked for Paul Simon and Harold Washington, but he worked for Richard M. Daley, okay, and then went to work for Bill Clinton. I heard him talking about when he was working for Forrest Claypool, saying, you know what it's like with the machine in Chicago. So everybody in Chicago blames the machine. One day Michael Madigan will be like, you can't beat the machine. So, the machine doesn't even exist anymore. It's so pathetic. So yeah, there's a good reason why people have that. By the way, I got to tell you this, Maya. We're going to be doing some backroom deal stories.
Oh yeah.
And we really should talk about the Illinois primary. I took a deep dive. I want to thank Maggie Wonderly. I got to give you a shout out, Maggie Wonderly. She's a Bernie Sanders delegate, and she was the person that essentially, she always tries not to take all the credit, but she was the Bernie strategist who helped put together Bernie's slate of delegates. And she explained to me, she was so patient with me, Maya, the delegate selection process in Illinois. And it's not as nutty as Iowa, but it's pretty nutty. And so part of the problem in all these cases is that the rules are so convoluted and so complicated, and it's not readily apparent like how delegates are apportioned to a candidate after a primary, that people can walk away saying it's rigged, it's fixed. And so we
have to do an episode on that.
Yeah, no, it's good stuff. Like, I'll just throw this out there as a teaser. If a candidate doesn't get 15% of the vote in any congressional district, he or she, a presidential candidate, won't get any delegates. You get 14% statewide. You could conceivably come in second or third statewide and not get any delegates, because the delegates are apportioned according to how much of the vote you get in a congressional district. The Democratic Party makes its own rules. It's a party, It gets to do what it wants.
Certainly some kind of party.
It's certainly.
Yeah, but I mean, yeah. So we will. Folks should be on the lookout for our third season of Backroom Deal. March 17th, Illinois primary edition. We'll have episodes about local Cook County races, state level races, congressional races, Supreme Court races. There's some interesting stuff going on there too. So, yeah.
And we will be at the Hideout tonight before we take the break. Bring May on. We'll be at the Hideout tonight, 6:30, 1354 West Wabansia. We will have Carlos Ramirez Rosa, Brandon Johnson. Brandon will be representing Elizabeth Warren. Carlos will represent Bernie Sanders. A lot of tickets have been sold, as I understand it.
Yep, and so people should grab their tickets. They should get there early to get a seat. And I don't know if this Iowa thing will become any more clear tonight, but we're definitely setting aside more time than usual for our audience engagement portion of this conversation, because I'm sure people have lots of questions. Brandon and Carlos have lots to say. And so initially the show had been conceived as a sort of ideas level debate about the candidates and where they disagree. And we'll have some of that, but there will be a lot of talk tonight about the mechanics of this.
Well, and the mechanic, and I will say this before you take the break. Bernie, Buttigieg, and Elizabeth Warren, their campaigns sent out this message that, according to their informal counts, the top three vote getters were Bernie, Warren, and Buttigieg. Okay, so that means that the lefty wing, progressive wing, whatever you want to call it, the Ben wing of the Democratic Party is, if not a majority, very close to a majority. Just throwing that out there. Elizabeth Warren and Bernie are the two lefties in this race, and just throwing that out there, lefties. Don't. You shouldn't feel as though like you're a stranger in your own house.
Yeah, but I heard that there's a lot of frustration between Bernie and Elizabeth people in Iowa from people who are canvassing out there. So we'll definitely get to that tonight.
All right, plenty to talk about. Maya's got to prepare for the big show tonight, so we're going to let her get on her way. May Whiteside is on deck. We're going to bring her on when we return. Hey, everybody. What you're about to hear are the piano stylings of Jeff Manuel. Man, listen to Jeff go. Jeff Manuel has been playing piano around Chicago for years. He's played for conventions, for celebrities, played in basement bars with blues bands. He's played at prestigious social clubs, fine restaurants, and in the intimacy of private homes. Book Jeff Manuel at jeffemanuelpianist.com. Don't worry, I'll spell his name at the end of this commercial. You know what Chicago Magazine said? They said that Jeff Manuel is, quote, as comfortable with Chopin as he is with Cole Porter. He's excellent and his performance is joyous. He offers an elegant stream of compositions and interpretations that entertains the mind but won't hurt the ears. To hear more of Jeff Manuel's work and to book Jeff for your next event, go to jeffmanuelpianist.com. I'm going to spell it out for you, people. J-E-F-F, M as in Mary, A-N as in Nancy, UELPIANIST.com. Take it away, Jeff Manuel.
Madam Secretary, you talk a lot about the mothers of your friends, where you went to their houses and you knew that they were going to be kind and generous and supportive of you. So that theme of women being present and how they make a difference, talk a little bit about that and how that, again, animated some of the selections that you made of people in the book.
That's a great question, Mayor, because I wanted to include women who I could distinctly remember the impact that they had on me. And, obviously historical figures. I never knew Helen Keller or Anne Frank or Maria Tallchief or Amelia Earhart, but as a little girl, they made a big impression on me.
We passed a bipartisan, truly balanced budget on time, with renewed investments in job creation, cradle-to-career education, and physical and mental health care. Even the credit rating agencies and financial analysts described a distinct improvement in our fiscal stability, and investors took notice and lowered our state's borrowing rate. Illinois is a state with a grand history of profound impact on our nation and our world. We've sent 4 transformative presidents to the White House. We were the first state to ratify 2 of the most important amendments to the U.S. Constitution, one abolishing slavery and another one granting women the right to vote. The first cell phone was invented here. So was the first television remote control and the first widely used internet browser. What all these things have in common.
Little Illinois history there, everybody. All right, hour number 2 of your Ben Joravsky Show for Tuesday, February 4th is just moments away. Before we get into that, we got to thank the following unions again for jumping on board and sponsoring this program. Unions like the International Association of Machinists and Aerospace Workers, Local 126 at District 8. They're sponsors. The International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local 9, sponsor this program, as well as the International Union of Operating Engineers, Local 150. Can't thank those unions enough for jumping on board and sponsoring the Ben Joravsky Show. And, of course, today's show is brought to you by our dear friends at the Chicago Federation of Labor. Hour number 2 featuring, yes, more Iowa bashing. Starts right now. It is Tuesday, February 4th, and live from the Chicago Sun-Times Chicago Reader Studio on Racine Avenue, this is the Ben Joravsky Show. In this hour of the program, May Whiteside of the Flourish PAC returns, and we welcome back congressional candidate Anthony Clarke. And now your host. If you ask our live stream chatters, he may be a Bloomberg bro. Okay, Bloomer. Chicago Reader columnist Ben Joravsky.
All right, I simply I just love that. Like, a Bloomberg bro. That's hilarious. I simply threw this out to my friends of the centrist persuasion, May Whiteside. I just simply said this.
Yeah.
That if you're a centrist, which means you're sort of a Joe Biden or an Amy Klobuchar or a Pete Buttigieg person, why are you wasting your time? Go with the billionaire. Go with Michael Bloomberg. That's what I said. I thought it was perfectly logical. In politics, money is very important. We don't have campaign finance reform, folks. Hate to say it, the Republicans killed it. So this is the playing field we have. If you don't have like a real progressive grassroots campaign person who's got hundreds and thousands of people knocking on doors, if you don't have that kind of candidate, follow the money. That's all I said. I'm not, I think it's.
I'm with you on that. So I might be a Bloomy sister.
Okay.
Possibly. Okay. But hear me out.
Okay.
But hear me out.
Go
I have
ahead.
a perfectly good explanation for this. I'll probably get rocks thrown at me, but
Here they come.
Here they come. But he has the engine behind him. He's got the cash to staff up, put his messaging out in areas where the other candidates simply aren't going right now. He's able to reach you in your households. He's able to, and to be honest with you, do the Democrats have a strong economic message? I don't hear a strong economic message, but Bloomberg tends to really pack that punch about driving at home.
Hold on, let me just drink a little of this.
But then,
Bloomy Kool-Aid.
Yeah, I might need a bottle of that.
I'm just speaking straight pragmatism. The man's got billions of dollars. He says he's going to spend it on his campaign. If you're a centrist, why are you wasting your time with people who are broke, who have to turn to the Bloombergs of the world for some money? Why don't you just go with the real deal? And plus, he drives Trump crazy.
Yes, he
Trump
does.
cannot stand Bloomberg.
Pound for pound, he could take on Trump.
Yes.
And I know the Bernie bros will probably light me on fire, but, in terms of it's just the sheer money you need to run a countrywide campaign, you need that.
Well, Bloomberg, I am basically of the Bernie bro persuasion. And Bloomberg says he will finance the campaign. He will contribute to the campaign of whoever Democrat wins. He said that now.
He should.
So if it's Sanders, he says he'll contribute. Even though I don't like Bernie Sanders, he said he would contribute to him. And the same thing with Elizabeth Warren. If you really want to double down, you just go to him. Have him pay. And while you're at it, I was at the bowling alley last night. Maybe D, we'll get you. I know you have an update, but I just got to tell you this one. There was a guy on Andy. I'm going to give a shout out to Andy, who is from Iowa.
Hey, Andy.
So, yeah, Andy. He's wearing his Iowa shirt last night. I think he took it off after the caucus fell apart. But anyway, Andy said, in his opinion, Bloomberg should just drop out of the presidential race and spend his money on the Senate races. To which I said, why can't he do both? The guy's worth $60 billion. $60 billion. The only guy I know that rich is Dennis. All right.
Yeah. Loaded.
All right. D, you got an update for me before we
Absolutely, I
bring
do
May on?
here. We have more updates on last night's caucus. Oh, looks like we have audio, actually, from Michael Bloomberg. Oh, wait.
How do you get that?
That's just money.
Okay, all right.
Just money sound effect.
Come on.
All right, Mayor Pete, he's doubling down, Ben Joravsky. Oh, I know you love this. The following comes from CNN at his second official campaign stop of the day. Former South Bend, Indiana Mayor Pete Buttigieg again claimed victory in Iowa. We have audio here. Take it away, Mayor Pete, no one's favorite.
You said by all indications we're going on to New Hampshire victorious. By all indications, except the actual official count. So how can you declare victory without actual official numbers?
Well, like everybody else, probably more than anybody else, I'm impatient to get the official count. But we've also seen the reporting from our own precinct organization. In fact, we made it public from over 1,200 precinct locations. And what we saw is extraordinary. The support that we got in rural areas, suburban areas, and urban areas, in Democratic counties and counties that voted for Trump. For a campaign that a year ago, I think a lot of people were questioning what right we even had to do this and to make the attempt. And so it's clearly a victory for us, even as we, along with I think the whole country, impatiently wait for some official results from the party.
I understand declaring a moral victory or beating expectations or being surprised you ever got this far, but it did sound as if you were trying to make the claim that you were the official winner last night. And what are your concerns, given the environment, the electoral environment we're in, where we just need to trust results? Why not wait to hear for sure?
Well, we're going to hear the official results, and again, that can't come soon enough. But
oh my God, Buttigieg, what a piece of work that guy is.
He literally went on a social media campaign about how he won the caucus, and he had no data. I'm an engineer. I need data. I need proof. Things need to be counted. It's something called math.
Yeah.
You know, and I just think he just took it for granted and just in pure arrogance say I'm the winner.
Yeah. Well, and also, if you dissect what he said, clearly a victory for us tonight. So victory could be, well, we did better than expected. Victory could be we beat all the other centrists. Victory could be, I'm happy with the results. But that's different than saying we were the clear winners, the official winners, and he's ducking and dodging on that one. And I don't know, May. I'm sick of ducking and dodging candidates. I want a candidate. I've already, by the way, while I'm on the air, Henry Davis sent me a text. Henry Davis has been a guest on this show before, May, and by the way, he's the baby brother of one Stacey Davis Gates, who's another guest, and we'll be on the show on Friday. Anyway, he's a councilman in South Bend and does not like Pete Buttigieg, to put it mildly. And he already I knew he was listening. He sent me a text.
And it looks like we're going to be waiting for the results on Iowa throughout the day here. It says here, Iowa Democrats promise majority of results soon.
Okay, soon. Oh, my God. Oh, those computers. They're slow, the computers, okay?
That's correct.
All right. The computers in Iowa are really slow. They could have just done it by a paper ballot, and it would have had the results by now. You know what I'm saying? Just go back to the old days of paper ballot.
Yeah.
All right, May Whiteside, explain to people what Flourish is, who you are, and what you do. You've been on the show before, but just in case somebody forgot, give us the scoop.
Okay, awesome. Thanks for having me again. But Flourish is a labor of love. It is a political action committee that is supporting Black women running for office right here in the great state of Illinois, and as well as supporting women who and other candidates that support issues affecting Black women. And it has been about a year since we've been in existence. We've been also having the Illinois Black Campaign Academy, which is a political school teaching attendees, which our target attendees are candidates, just how do you run an effective campaign? So we train you on roles, the campaign manager. There may be those in the audience who want to learn how to be a campaign manager but don't know how to start. Campaign finance, treasurer, field organizer, and those roles are the kinds of roles that we have not seen many African Americans hold in those key positions. So the Illinois Black Campaign Academy, which is an activity of Flourish, trains to do just that.
Mm-hmm. And so the women's vote, the Black women's vote, is absolutely key in this upcoming presidential race.
Yes.
I believe that. I believe that's the reason Roy Moore was defeated in Alabama last year by Doug Jones. I think pretty much everybody agrees on that as well. Do you think the Democratic Party is taking the votes of Black women for granted?
Yeah. There's a yes and a no. One is, vote the party line, vote Democrat. We're all, majority of me and myself and my friends were all Democrats. And we typically turn out for Democrats, but what we want now is equity. We want the opportunity to not only deliver our votes and deliver the ticket for you, but we also want an opportunity to help shape policies that affect us. And so we want the opportunity to not only support you, but we want the opportunity to be effective with you as well. Mm-hmm. And I think sometimes the party forgets that, and we have to remind them that, we're here and we're going to deliver, but support us back too. We have campaigns. There's a lot of Black women who are running campaigns, and the sentiment that I'm getting from the party is that they're not writing me a check. They're not supporting me. So that makes room for a Flourish to make a space where we are fundraising to get that opportunity.
Now, in Illinois, at least let's give J.B. Pritzker credit for this. Mm-hmm. Very early on, he picked Juliana Stratton to be his running mate, sending a clear message. I'm not sure he would have been victorious I'm throwing this out there, May, in the 2018 election. He got in trouble with those Blagojevich tapes very early on with some of the disparaging remarks that he and Blagojevich were sort of sharing. Pritzker wasn't saying them so much as chuckling at Blagojevich when he said them about various black politicians. And then he had, Juliana Stratton, he put Juliana Stratton on the ticket. He did the apology tour. I don't know.
He had a lot of money.
Don't forget that part of
He had a lot of money.
What part was that at?
He had a lot of money. He had a lot of money to.
One more time, Centrist. Bloomberg. Okay, Centrist. Let's waste your time on Mayor Pete. Anyway, but he also, I believe that Juliana Stratton's presence, and Danny Biss did the same thing when he chose Leticia Wallace. Took him a while to get there, by the way. And some people say that it should have been reversed, with Leticia running for governor and Danny Biss running for lieutenant governor. But
that would have been a tough team to beat because she's smart.
She is smart, but smarts doesn't always win in politics, especially when the other side has the money. There seems to be a theme here in the show. Donald Trump, by the way, has a lot of money. Let's not kid ourselves. Donald Trump was able to air a commercial, 2 commercials on the Super Bowl on Sunday, and Donald Trump is just bombarding the internet. When I looked I was looking last night, I was obsessively, looking on the internet for results on Iowa, and I went to a website which had information on Iowa, and I had to wait through a Donald Trump commercial to get the information, just an indication of how much money Trump has at his disposal. All right, before we move to the results of your survey, which you sent to me, and people are waiting the results, let me ask you this. Do you think that it would be wise for the Democratic candidate to select a black woman as a running mate?
Yeah, it would be wise. One, because we've delivered for the party for decades. And I think we should have the opportunity to run a country which our ancestors built. That's just my personal take. A second thing is understanding policy and how effective it needs to be. Nobody understands that, I think, more than women of color, and particularly black women. I think it would be smart, given that the vast majority of the voters of the Democratic Party are African American, and we show up every single time, every election. I think there's an opportunity for us there in a vice president role, given that now, we haven't had any candidates of color, all haven't had the opportunity to run. We lost Kamala Harris, Cory Booker, and I think either one of them, Stacey Abrams, could easily be a VP. We could even look down at the Senate level and see which one of those candidates would make for a good vice president role. And there's some good governors. Good mayors in various cities. Look at Mayor Pete. He's trying to run for a president. Why not have a black one? We have tons of black women mayors now that have had great administrative experience that could take that experience into the White House.
Lori Lightfoot. Maybe she wants to be the vice
Lori,
president.
where are you?
I'd say Lori Lightfoot brings more to the table than Pete Buttigieg.
Yeah,
I'm just throwing that out there. I'm not. I don't love everything Lori's done since she became mayor. I did vote for her twice, so I have to be open about that.
Yeah.
I don't love everything she's done as mayor, but in my opinion, who has more life experience, who has just more practical experience in the world, who has more experience dealing with diversity and the whole issue of diversity.
And then, too, the economic investments that areas need. And you need an executive with strong economic interest. One, you got to be interested, but to be able to understand the issues and apply that and using like economic models. I think Lori would, if he said, hey, Lori, hey, why don't you be VP? I don't think anybody would. There's some issues, but I think she would make a good VP pick if it came down to it.
I'm just saying this, and we'll move on. In my humble opinion,
Yeah.
I'm just saying this, Lori Lightfoot is more suited, better prepared to be vice president than Pete Buttigieg and
any day
president. I think Lori, Let's face it.
Yeah.
What experience does Pete Buttigieg have to be president of the United States? He was mayor of a small city in Indiana.
Yeah.
Lori Lightfoot has been a mayor of a big city in Illinois for, what has it been, 6 months?
And won every single ward in the city.
I'm just saying, but it's interesting
Just
that
saying.
Mayor Pete is at the front of the line, and you know what I mean? Lori's not even in the line.
He doesn't have enough executive experience, in my opinion, to take on a role as big as president. I think he should I think he should have just took one more step, maybe try it out as senator, kind of wade in that pool and then move up. But I personally don't think he's ready.
No, he's not ready, and I don't think he's going to be in the race for much longer, no matter how many. If it's up to him, he'll just, no matter what the results is, he'll declare, I won
I'm
again.
a victor.
I won. I swear I won. It's like me saying the Bears won the Super Bowl. They weren't even in the Super Bowl, but it doesn't matter. All right, now tell folks about the Flourish list, which I'm going to call up on my phone right now.
The list. This is the list. This is our inaugural list. This is a list that identifies Black women to watch in Illinois politics. This is community submitted. We did an online survey that went on for about 30 days. Guys, who do you guys think fit these categories? And the people have responded, and now we reveal the list.
Okay, and there's a lot of names on those
There's
list.
a lot of names. You'd be surprised how many Black women are working in Illinois politics, from a community activist, from a party builder perspective, campaign strategists, movement sisters. If you notice, our Mayor Lightfoot was nominated for movement. Mm-hmm. She changed and working on changing the way Chicago operates. That is a big change. We haven't had that before. And a lot of women fell into the game changer categories. We've got women who worked behind the scenes in unions that have gotten state representatives elected. We've gotten aldermen who were ushered in through communities that wanted a change. We've got Black women from Rockford to Waukegan to Chicago to Decatur to Springfield to downstate. And this list is a culmination of the community saying, these are the go-to Black women in Illinois. When I look at these various categories and the work that's getting done behind these scenes and in front of the scenes, these are the women that were nominated.
All right.
And it is the list.
All right.
The list.
Anthony Clarke has entered the room. Anthony Clarke has entered the room. Is my next guest. He's going to, just like we always like to announce when a guest comes to the room. Welcome, Anthony.
Hi.
No. Yeah. So, okay, let's go through this game changer list. Unbought and unbossed, it says here. At the top of the list,
in alphabetical order.
Yeah, is Candace Castillo, who's a frequent guest on the show. Number 2 on the list is Keena Collins, who's Anthony's opponent in the race. That's interesting. And State Representative Mary Flowers, Kim Fox, SDG, Stacey Davis Gates. Talk about what was some of the reasoning, the logic that voters had for selecting Maria Haddon, I see, is on this list.
Rita Mayfield, Kimberly Lightfoot's on the list. There's a sister from Peoria. I want to say she's from Peoria, Chama St. Louis. We also see on the list Robin Rue Simmons. She's the alderwoman in Evanston, actually, that was one of the first to implement reparations, getting the...
Yes, that Evanston, they're going to give a slice of the proceeds, my hometown, I should say, are going to give a slice of the proceeds from selling illegal reefer. They're going to make it available for, for loans so people can get housing. Did I get that right? Yeah. So it's a form of reparations. So I got to give her some love. Fifth Ward in Evanston has traditionally been the Black district, where most of the Black people live on the west side of Evanston there.
Okay.
Pound for pound, probably my favorite alder. I hate to say I have a favorite.
Yeah.
Jeanette Taylor does not play, okay?
Jeanette Taylor. Letisa Wallace, she was... some of these women were nominated over 5 times in one category. Mm-hmm. And some people were just confused, like, they were great as a candidate, and when they got in, they're a game changer, but they were community activists first. And it's like, there are some of these names that have hit every single category that we have. Even I got nominated, and I said, don't put my name in there. But even I landed there. Jessica Thomas is also, she's the first Black auditor Peoria has ever had. And, you know, that's huge. You know, that's a game changer. That's saying that she's able to reach across the aisle and be voted in. I heard a lot about Mary Flowers.
Mary Flowers, state representative from the south side of Chicago, Englewood. I've known Mary for many years. Met her in 1984, as a matter of fact. So we've both been around for a while. Let's talk about the strategist here. This is interesting. You said one of the things that Flourish does is try to encourage Black women to get in the game behind the scenes.
The scenes, yeah.
You know, I always tell like the kids, hey man, get behind the camera. Everybody wants to be in front of the camera, but the real power is behind the camera when you're making a movie. In terms of a strategist, let's talk about some of the women on this list: Hope Pickett, Laura Whitaker, Tiffany Hightower, Alex Sims. Talk about some of these strategists.
So I never got a chance to meet Laura Whitaker, but for years I would watch her like on social media. She would put together fundraisers for so many candidates, and I would go, wow, she has that type of time to do that. And really, so she was one of the first people that I saw when I started to pay attention. So this is from my viewpoint from when I started to pay attention. Now someone nominated her, but I would see like her really work. I think she's South Suburbs even, so she's not even in Chicago. She's in Chicago, but I would see her frequently, just being the person that pulls people together and fill a room with fundraisers. Tiffany Hightower, I recently met her, but I believe she done some work on the gubernatorial campaigns, a strategist behind the scenes, just, you know, figuring out where the candidates should be and how they should talk to this community and how to work with them. Alex Sims, I met her years ago. She worked on various city campaigns and then Rahm Emanuel's campaign.
I won't hold that against her.
I won't hold that against Alex. I'm not gonna I don't even think she knows this is even happening, that her name is even being mentioned right now, because we are the first to really crack and open the list. And Hope Pickett has worked on a couple of campaigns. I've seen her. I've heard of her first. I heard that she was a bad, you know what, like she actually just did a fundraiser for Danny. She's running for Congresswoman against Adam Kinzinger.
Oh, Danny, yeah. She was on that show, Danny Brzezinski, yeah.
Yeah, so Hope is behind that, too.
Okay.
But
when you said Danny, I thought you meant Danny K. Davis.
No.
Anthony Clarke is like, that's two, man. We got you, Anthony. Don't worry. Yeah, but okay. Wrong, Danny. Okay, gotcha.
And so when I think about Party Builder, Josephine Hamilton Perry. Do you hear me, Josephine? That's the camera right there. Josephine Hamilton Perry. I've seen this woman work her butt off, and she's been. I recently seen on social media. She was at the DNC working with the committee for people of color. Like, there's never a hey, I'm going here. She's already there. She's already dressed. She's suited and booted. She worked. She volunteered for Hillary Clinton. Then she worked, try to get Kamala Harris elected. She's tireless. And when I initially conceived this concept back in 2017, you know, we had been talking, let me give you a kind of a background. Black women that I've seen work in front and behind the scenes have been talking about the recognition for a while. So, but back in 2017, when I first thought of something like honoring African-American women in Illinois politics, she was the first person I thought of in terms of being that super volunteer that is there for the Democratic Party and illustrating how no matter what age you are, you can come into this party and you can contribute your skill sets, whether you're voting or you're volunteering on some campaign or you're advancing the Democratic Party agenda. I haven't seen that embodied so much as to Josephine Hamilton Perry. So that's your
take on that one.
That's my take on her.
Before we take a break and bring Anthony on, tell folks, first of all, how they can get a hold of this list or get in touch with Flourish if they want more information, want to get involved, that kind of thing.
Yeah, so immediately after, I'm going to post the results on the website, on all of our social medias. We're on Twitter, Facebook, we're on LinkedIn. We're going to post it to the website, and then in the coming weeks, you're going to get more bios and detailed information. And there's going to be an event planned. And one of the senior advisors to the DNC will be coming down to help
make that happen.
celebrate these women.
All right, very good. May Whiteside, thank you so much for coming on. Anthony Clarke's on deck. We'll bring him on when we return.
Read the Chicago Reader to get up to speed. Read the Chicago Reader to get up to speed on what's what in Chicago. Culture, food, arts and entertainment, weekly concert listings, weekly event listings, the environment, travel. I can continue, but you get the point. And for all of you Chicago political junkies, raw weekly columns on real city politics from Maya Dukmasova and our very own Ben Joravsky. The Chicago Reader, free to the public in newsstands throughout the city and online at chicagoreader.com. Read it now and be a more informed Chicagoan.
Ram, Vice President Joe Biden made one of his final moves before the debate starts to show a video of him basically bear hugging President Obama. Smart move. Why is he doing that?
I think he also got a hug back.
Yeah, he did.
But no, yeah, it's a smart move. It's his calling card. It's why he has the strength he has among Democratic voters, is because he served with a very, very popular president. It's what surprised me in the last debate when people were throwing the president under the bus. I mean, you have a person who's at 90-some-odd% popularity with Democrats. That is not a smart strategy. I do agree with Matt. This is going to be about the energy. There's more about a chemistry that you're going to associate, and the closer the candidate can put their own story with the story of where people live their lives, the better they're going to be. They're not going to follow all the details about this policy versus that policy. It's about relating, and they feeling that they can relate to that candidate and that they understand them where they live their lives.
It's Chicagoland's adult entertainment playground. It's the world-famous Admiral Theater, 3940 West Lawrence Avenue. The Admiral is homegrown from Chicago, and it's the most conveniently located club in all of the city. 15 minutes from the O'Hare Airport in downtown Chicago Loop. Voted Chicago's best strip club, the Admiral has showgirls galore and a variety of adult entertainment shows. The world-famous Admiral Theater, open every day from 7 p.m. to 6 a.m., 3940 West Lawrence Avenue. For events, showtime, and other information, visit admiralx.com. Must be 18 years of age or older to enter.
Oh, what was that noise? Welcome back to the Ben Joravsky Show, live from the Chicago Sun-Times.
Anthony Clarke in the studio, the pride and joy of Oak Park. He's running for Congress in the 7th Congressional. He ran in 2018. Got Ricky Hendon and Danny Davis all upset when he ran. Anthony Clarke has been on my show many times. Great guest, and I welcome him back. Before we bring Anthony on, D, you got an update?
Yeah, and also some reminders here. Tonight, 6:30, it's going down at the Hideout, 1354 West Wabansia. Boy, perfect timing for this, by the way, Ben. We got one of the Bernie Sanders persuasion and one of the Elizabeth Warren persuasion having themselves a debate. It's Carlos Ramirez Rosa. It's Brandon Johnson. Tonight at the Hideout. It's going to be a fantastic time. Make sure you go. And more than likely, won't be exact numbers from Iowa last night, tonight's show. Speaking of, we have an update on that. The company behind the Iowa app apologizes.
Oh, that's nice.
For the problems.
Apologize.
I mean, now that they apologize, I guess it's okay, right? All right, Shadow Inc. Boy, that's a
Shadow Inc. What a great name
Oh,
for
boy.
I know for transparency. We'll get Shadow Inc.
So apropos.
Yeah.
How do we not be shady? I don't know. Okay. Shadow Inc., the company behind the app used by Iowa Democrats last night, has apologized in its first public comment about the problems. Here's the quote from Shadow Inc. Quote, "We sincerely regret the delay in the reporting of the results of last night's Iowa caucuses and the uncertainty it has caused the candidates, their campaigns, and Democratic caucus goers," the company said in a tweet. It says here, as the Iowa Democratic Party has confirmed, the underlying data and collection process via Shadow's mobile caucus app was sound and accurate, but our process to transmit the caucus results data generated via the app to the IDP was not.
Could you translate that into English?
Who's Bernie Sanders? Why is this guy winning?
right.
This thing isn't working.
Fubar.
Anthony Clarke is running for Congress in the 7th Congressional. He is a teacher at Oak Park River Forest High School, suburban Oak Park. He's been on this show many, many times, and I want to give Anthony the opportunity to talk a little bit about his candidacy and why he thinks he's the best candidate for Congress, and the challenges of running against a longtime incumbent like Danny K. Davis. But before I do any of that, Anthony, let's get it out there. You are a Bernie supporter. You were a Bernie supporter in 2016. You're not running away from it in 2020.
Not at all. Not at all. Thank you so much, again, for having me on. Truly appreciate it. Enjoy myself when I could come on. Shout out to all the listeners today. I hope you're okay. Hope you're recovering from Iowa. Last night I stayed up until 1 a.m. just holding on to something, that some results would come out, and I've been sleepy all day and a little upset. But yes, again, my name is Anthony Clarke, running in the 7th Congressional District of Illinois. Chicagoland area, Chicago, West Loop, South Loop, goes all the way through the suburbs once you go west of Austin and all the way into bits of Hillside. So it's a joy to be on. And as was stated, in 2016, a movement, I don't want to say a movement began because we're standing on the shoulders of giants. Individuals have been pushing for progress throughout the history of this country, but essentially for me, a political movement that stood on the shoulders of, the civil rights movement, in the sense, workers' rights movement, caught my attention. And that was Bernie Sanders, his presidential run in 2016. And again, it's bigger than one individual. No one person can save us. We have, as the people, as working class Americans, we have to save ourselves. But when you see someone that's part of a movement that is literally speaking struggle, which I believe is a universal language, whether you're from Chicago or Iowa or Hawaii or even, across this globe, we understand struggle. We understand poverty. We understand trying to just survive and live day to day. And I believe in 2016 and fast forward to 2020, Bernie Sanders' campaign is the only campaign that's part of that movement of struggle that's speaking to working class Americans, no matter who we are, no matter our backgrounds, which are extremely important, and just preaching that we must come together, we must unite in the struggle. This is class warfare, the oppressed versus the oppressors. Very similar to Fred Hampton, who is an icon to me, someone who, I research his teachings, read many of his writings, and, shout out to PBS. I don't know if you know, Ben, but they just came out with a special last week in regards to the original Rainbow Coalition, not the one that Jesse Jackson, he co-opted it and, started his own Rainbow Coalition, but the original Rainbow Coalition, to where you had impoverished blacks, you had impoverished Puerto Ricans primarily, you had impoverished whites, coming from the South, looking for opportunity, that were all essentially oppressed within this class struggle. And they united and they came together. And I think, though it's not the exact same, clearly, I think that's the message that we need moving forward. And I know we have a lot to talk about, but our current president in office, he attempts to speak struggle, but he is not fluent in the language. He does connect with many people that are struggling. Look, the government clearly is not working for you. The government clearly doesn't represent you. But what our current president does is he others. The government isn't working. You're struggling. You're not making a living wage. You don't have employment. Look at your crops. They're underperforming, so on and so forth. But it's immigrants' fault. But it's a black person's fault. It's a brown person's fault. It's a woman's fault. It's a member of the LGBTQIA plus community's fault. And that's false. We have to pull back and recognize that, yes, we are all struggling. It's by design, but I truly believe it's the government's fault, Democrat and Republican. And we need to call that, speak truth to power. And I'm so excited. We endorsed him early on again. I believe that hopefully by 5 p.m. they're stating and reporting that hopefully at least 50 to 60% of the Iowa caucus results will be out. And I truly believe that, Bernie will have a strong showing. And shout out to everyone else, whoever you support, whoever you believe in. I want to give you a shout out as well. But there's reasons you believe in them. So I'm not trying to discount your candidate. I'm not trying to discount your beliefs. I'm just speaking for myself, as a black male in this society that is working class, that has experienced struggle. I truly believe that we need to unite within class warfare as the oppressed, come together, bring our identities, bring our diversity, and make this movement extremely strong and attack the root cause issues that exist.
All right, Anthony Clarke, if you were elected to Congress, if you were the congressman of the 7th Congressional District and you laid out where the 7th Congressional runs, basically goes to the western suburbs through the west side, and then it shoots down, gets some of the south side as well. If you were elected congressman, how would you be different than the incumbent, Danny K. Davis?
Yeah, definitely. That's a wonderful question, Ben. I think there's a staunch and clear difference between surviving and fighting. I thank the congressman for his service. He served a distinguished career. He's been in office for decades and decades. But when you look back, this is how I explain it to individuals. So similar to me shifting from the military to becoming a teacher to starting a nonprofit, you can either spend your life treating symptoms, or you could give everything you have to address root cause issues. And what that may look like is, we know homelessness is an issue. Chicago alone has over 80,000 individuals that are homeless when you account for individuals that are couch hopping, house hopping, living with friends, living with families. The climate has been an issue. This is nothing new. I remember being a young whippersnapper and Al Gore coming on the TV to talk about climate issues and climate change. But yet, who are we seeing leading these fights? It hasn't been Danny K. Davis. He's an individual that falls within that narrative of, they vote the right way or blue no matter who. But if you truly want to make systemic change, you have to be on the front lines fighting. My grandmother always says it takes a village to raise a child, and every village has warriors. And I think that's the difference. I am a warrior. I am a fighter. I am boots to the ground. I don't want to spend the rest of my life feeding the homeless, seeing the same families and individuals that I helped feed with coalition work on Monday, come back the next Monday and still need help. Because I recognize, even if you look at the data and you only care about the economy, it's actually cheaper to end homelessness. So let's not feed the homeless, let's end homelessness. Let's not survive and just count on status quo. Let's progress. We can no longer meet our communities where they are. We need leadership in office that are bold enough and have the courage to work with wonderful coalitions throughout this district and throughout the nation to take our communities and take our party, the Democratic Party, to where it needs to be for the working class people of America. And we don't currently have that type of leadership in office. And I think if you look at my history, as my students say, shout out to the students at Oak Park and River Forest High School, they often say, Google me. If you got them messed up, they say, Google me. Yeah. But you could actually Google the work that we've been doing. As a teacher, my nonprofit is Suburban Unity Alliance, suburbanunity.org. Started a small business long ago where we employed at-risk youth. Been doing work in the Austin community, Berwyn, Cicero, Maywood community. We've truly been out there building coalitions. We've truly been out there knocking down these metaphorical economic walls that exist between communities like Oak Park and Austin, between communities like Forest Park and Maywood, and building those bridges and connecting individuals that on the surface, they look out and say, that's not my issue or that's not my fight. But when you discuss class struggle and when you make those emphatic connections, you join together and you bring your individual fights and create, the ultimate fight and the ultimate victory.
You give me a lot of stuff I want to ask you about. You mentioned Donald Trump. Do not allow me to let you get out of the studio without discussing his Super Bowl ad. I don't know if you actually saw his Super Bowl ad.
You know what? I didn't see his Super Bowl ad, but I do know he needs a geography lesson. Shout out to the make believe people of Kansas City, Kansas.
He had a little issues with that. Okay, well, he did. He thought Kansas City was in Kansas. Hey, man, it's got Kansas in the name.
Hey, I'm pretty sure he's hoping we'll caucus there soon.
Yeah.
Kansas City, Kansas.
We'll ask you about the Iowa caucus, too, and whether Illinois should be the first primary state. But before we do that, a contrast. You talked about why you supported Bernie Sanders in 2016 and why you're sticking with him in 2020. The incumbent congressman from the 7th Congressional District, the man who has held that seat, I want to say, since about 1996, who is endorsed by the party, has supported Joe Biden.
Mm-hmm.
So Danny K. Davis, who's the incumbent congressman, supports Joe Biden. Anthony Clarke, who is the challenger, the young challenger, supports Bernie Sanders. I mean, you could write a novel just with that as the opening premise. Talk about everything that means.
Yeah, definitely. I want to, I always have to give a shout out to my parents, Ron and Blanche Clarke. I love them so much. And as a teacher, I often recognize how our curriculum that we present to students is often whitewashed, it's often colonized, and we don't necessarily get the information that's required, I feel, to truly be a global citizen. So I just wanted to shout out my parents because they're the ones and individuals who exposed me to the movement, like the Black Panther Party, to Martin Luther King, to Malcolm X, to Angela Davis, Assata Shakur, all these various wonderful revolutionaries, all these various individuals that were involved in bold movements and had ideology that essentially not only identified and recognized the oppressive isms that exist, whether it be racism, sexism, classism, ableism, so on and so forth, but again, is interconnected into the class struggle. You know, when Martin Luther King was assassinated, where was he? He was in Memphis. What was he about to do? He was about to lead a worker sanitation strike because he even recognized and made those connections in regards to the oppressive isms that exist under capitalism to maintain a bottom. You know, racism is a tool utilized to help maintain a bottom. Sexism is a tool utilized to maintain a bottom. And he recognized this. So in regard to the differences between an endorsement of Bernie Sanders and an endorsement of Joe Biden is part of the problem. He has been part of the problem. So as a young individual that's been boots to the ground, I do not identify him as being part of the solution. If you look at his history, though he tries to rewrite it, of course, in regards to attacking Social Security, okay? That is a huge issue that exists. I just put out an emotional post yesterday, and I'm still, unpacking it. My father, he worked for decades and decades, 60 to 70 hours a week to provide me with better. He was retired for 5 years. Just this past week, he put back on his boots, put his lunch in his lunch pail, and he went back to work because he's concerned. My mother's concerned in regards to their retirement benefits, in regards to Social Security. My mother had her Social Security deducted to help pay for her. She had Part B of her Medicare coverage to help pay for her medical coverage. These are issues that are across. This is not just Chicago. How many individuals are facing this to where your parents can't retire, to where your parents have to continue to work, or they're going back out of retirement to work, or you yourself are concerned, will I be able to truly retire one day? That's an issue. So if you have an individual that literally throughout his career has championed cutting Social Security benefits, that should tell you something. And if we recognize oppression that exists, who's often disproportionately impacted? Black, brown, and impoverished communities. Then if we want to go to school integration, we understand the legacy of civil rights. In my opinion, I make I statements, slavery ended Juneteenth, 1865, June 19th. We call it Juneteenth. But essentially through the prison industrial complex, slavery still exists. Okay, they disproportionately impact black, brown, and impoverished communities. Who helped with the crime bill? Joe Biden helped author it, helped champion mandatory minimums, the discrepancies between cocaine, that's powder, and crack cocaine, that's rock. Those are race disparities because we know which communities were greatly impacted by that. Okay, and we look at school integration. How important is that? He actually lobbied for policies that not only were in opposition of, busing, but also took funding away from ensuring that schools could make sure that teachers are diverse. These are huge issues that exist, and we could continue to go on. Not even the fact that he lied about being part of the civil rights movement, an active part of it, and is currently getting called out.
Yeah.
We could go on, and then, I just want to end with, because trust me, we could continue to talk about this, his history with war. I don't know if you saw, we went viral talking about, the poverty draft that exists. That hit home to a lot of people, not only in Chicago, but across the nation. Because I'm a disabled veteran. I served 6 years active duty. I thank my parents, but I realized when I turned a certain age, I didn't want to have to rely on them. They struggled themselves and gave me everything yet. I saw an older brother that was struggling. So for myself, when I got in trouble, that military is like a welfare state. It dangles in front of you often what we're fighting for now. What did the military dangle in front of my face? Healthcare. I wouldn't have to pay for it. They're going to pay for college. They're going to provide me housing, and they're going to provide me employment.
It's the Bernie platform.
It's the Bernie platform, and
but
we
you
never
gotta go sign up
exactly. So, but in order to get that Bernie platform, you have to sign up to fight a rich person's war that is fought and died for by poor people. Yeah. But we don't get that, and we never ask how are we going to pay for it when we're spending trillions and trillions of dollars on the military-industrial complex. So that's a huge issue, his legacy there, and I would be remiss if I don't shout out Anita Hill. That whole fiasco where you have a black woman who had the courage and the power to speak up and call out sexual harassment way before the Me Too movement. And shout out to everyone in the Me Too movement. But Anita was there. And Joe actively worked to silence her, to discredit her, to essentially ruin her career and her life. And this is an individual that the establishment Democratic Party is championing. I'm not accepting of that because I see how his legacy has impacted my and other people's legacies. My father, my mother, my grandmother, my father, my grandfather, so on and so forth. So that's why Joe should not be an answer. And I'll end it here. This is a primary. This isn't the general. You know, I could see the argument if you say, okay, this is Joe Biden versus Trump. Yeah. This is the general election. Who you're going to choose? Well, clearly.
I love Joe Biden.
Right. Oh, well, man. Hey, what's up, Joe? G.I. Joe was my favorite show growing up. You know, all those connections. But again, this is a primary. And in a D+38 district, extremely blue, we have an opportunity to push the district forward. And you're going to pick Joe Biden?
All right. You've given me so much to ask you on. Before I forget, what branch of the military were you in?
So I served 6 years active duty in the United States Air Force. I was medically discharged in 2009 after being shot in 2007. And then I have what's known as Behçet's disease. If you're not aware, the military is a high polluter in regards to carbon emissions and pollutants that enter into our atmosphere. So I have what's also known as Behçet's disease and have to take medication every 2 weeks.
Yeah. And you were the one who smoked a reefer in public with that, right? Am I right?
Yes. I'm a champion of the legalization of cannabis with a focus on racial justice. We were talking about that in 2017 when Danny K. Davis was not. So our campaign is the actual campaign that moved him on this issue.
Well, about time.
Oh, no question.
I mean, they should have. Well, it should never have been illegal in the first place.
Not
That's
at
a
all.
whole other story. It should have never been illegal in the first place. All right, and that gets into the issue of the generation aspect here. And follow me in this one. Get many people of all political persuasions coming through this show, Anthony. And I always say Joe Biden is the right wing. It's the right side of the Ben Joravsky show. And we even go to green. That's how far left we go. We're basically left of center show. I mean, let's be honest, okay? Right. And a lot of Bernie bros come on this show. Older black people who support Biden tell me, Ben, you don't have to understand how the black community works. Black are very pragmatic voters, and they don't believe that Bernie Sanders can get any of the initiatives that he's talking about done. So why even waste your vote? I'm just telling what people tell me, okay? I'm sure you've heard this.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it.
And so I've heard John Lewis say this in 2016, the congressman from Georgia, who was on the Edmund Pettus Bridge, say this. Why are you promising free college education? You can't do it. It's not just black people. Older white people are always saying, Bernie can't get that stuff. So he's making promises he can't make. I have my own opinion about this. Right. I would love to hear your opinion about this.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm smiling because it just, again, I think the history of this earth, the history of the earth, the history of the United States of America, even though it's a troubling history in regards to the genocide of natives, indigenous individuals, and enslavement of Africans and African descendants, but the history of earth has been about progress. So if you look through history, even at a micro level, if you have children or grandchildren, I think I could connect with anyone. I mean, I served in the military with some staunch Republicans, some individuals that I'd never seen a black person before in their life outside of a movie. You know, they thought everybody was Clubber Lang from Rocky III. You know, so, but no matter who you are, you should want better for the next generation. Okay, my father broke his back daily to take care of me. So when he saw me growing up, he didn't want that life for me if I didn't want to choose it for myself or if I didn't need to choose it. He wanted better. So in my mind, as a history teacher, I think to myself, and I'm not being funny here, I'm big on analogies. How many people during slavery, the enslavement of Africans and African descendants, chattel slavery, wanted to be pragmatic? And how many people said, this is not acceptable? We cannot accept this. If this means some people are going to lose their lives, if this means that I'm going to be punished, if this means that abolitionists are going to be called out, we're going to be called radicals. So again, how many were pragmatic during slave times? How many were pragmatic during the women's suffrage movement? Women voting? Women actually getting out and having jobs and careers? That's not possible. They need to be barefoot. They need to be having children. How many were pragmatic in regards, and we're still fighting for all these issues, mind you, but in regards to love is love, marriage equality. there's always going to be pragmatism. But similar to my belief in regards to civility compared to justice, civility and pragmatism are tools of the oppressor. Because as black individuals, I hope, as brown individuals, as working class poor individuals, we need to recognize how pragmatism, how being centrist, that continues not to serve our communities. When we go out and you go east of Austin, or if you go west to Maywood and you see predominantly black and brown communities that have been devastated by local and federal governments, that's a problem. And to have leadership in office that essentially sit back through decades and decades of, oh, wow, voter turnout's extremely low. You know, we don't see a lot of young people coming out to vote. But you know what? These older voters keep me in office. I just got to put out a yard sign, maybe go to a black church or two. Every time I'm in this community, all I see are liquor stores, churches, and loan offices. So keep them drunk, prayed up, and broke. That should be a problem. So again, I understand, but they have to understand the past generations. You got to this point because of progress. Because if it wasn't for progress, I wouldn't be sitting here today. This may be but this may be a white only radio station, whites only. You know, so progress is our history. Revolution is our history. So it's important that we open our ears and understand that I'm hearkening back to, we don't ask how we're going to pay for it when we're talking about the military. We print our own money, and I challenge people to look up MMT, modern monetary theory, something I'm continuing to educate myself on. The wealth tax, the carbon tax, the federal legalization of cannabis, and that tax. There's revenues. We can identify revenue and cutting back the military-industrial complex. The trillions of dollars we spend on the military, where else could that money go? Within our infrastructure, within our educational systems. And I'm going to end with, and I think I said this earlier, it's cheaper to be proactive. The war on drugs did not work. We see the opioid epidemic that exists. Many people were silent when it was particularly black and brown communities, but now it's an issue, and it should be an issue because now it's hitting middle class and upper middle class white families who I care about just the same. But why weren't we talking about it then? It's cheaper to be proactive and treat this as a health crisis, not reactively in jail individuals. It's cheaper to end homelessness. And you can look it up. The data shows it's cheaper to proactively treat things than to reactively. So let's talk about that. So I don't accept the fact that how are we going to pay for it? We pay for anything we want to pay for, and let's start paying for humanity.
That's Anthony Clarke. He's running for Congress in the 7th Congressional District. We're going to take a break. When we come back, I'll ask him about President Trump's Super Bowl commercial. I'll ask him about Iowa, and I'll ask him about whether Illinois should be the first state to have a caucus or a primary in the presidential selection process. Be right back.
Read the Chicago Reader to get up to speed on what's what in Chicago. Culture, food, arts and entertainment, weekly concert listings, weekly event listings, the environment, travel. I can continue, but you get the point. And for all of you Chicago political junkies, raw weekly columns on real city politics from Maya Dukmasova and our very own Ben Joravsky. The Chicago Reader, free to the public in newsstands throughout the city and online at chicagoreader.com. Read it now and be a more informed Chicagoan.
So this idea is a bunch of malarkey.
Welcome back to the Ben Joravsky Show. Mr. Joravsky, take us home.
Can I do the old thing I used to do, D? Can I do it, please? All right.
Go for it.
All
yeah.
right. Guest in the studio, Anthony Clarke. Not only did he serve in the Air Force, not only is he an outstanding teacher at Oak Park River Forest, not only was he the star of Steve James' documentary about Oak Park River Forest, not only has he been a frequent guest on the Ben Joravsky Show, not only is he running for Congress in the 7th Congressional District, but he plays a mean piano, ladies and gentlemen. God dang!
Wow.
Who knew? Who knew?
Hey.
Nobody knew that. Anthony Clarke, piano man.
Hey.
Billy Joel of Oak Park. All right, before we make Anthony Clarke handle the tough question about Donald John Trump's Super Bowl commercial in Iowa and all that other stuff. D, what you got for me?
Well, we got some updates here. Let's talk about.
Did they figure out who won Iowa?
Wait, let me look. No.
Guess Bernie must still be winning. Can we figure out how to? No, I'm just kidding.
Early
That's
numbers.
cynical.
There are some people tweeting, and some early numbers are reporting with 60% of it in that Bernie has the lead, but that's nothing confirmed. I don't want to,
Yeah, it's some guy tweeting.
I don't want to jump the gun.
That's
here.
like Buttigieg. I won.
A lot of people are posting that Bernie's got the lead there, but we're gonna have to wait and see.
Buttigieg.
We have some of the candidates though. They're moving onward and upward. I guess a lot of them are saying here as the campaign continues. Joe Biden today was in New Hampshire. It looks like he got heckled a bit by a crowd. I may have some audio of that. Let's listen to the old Joey B.
Character is on the ballot this time, and I don't believe character of the candidates and the very character of our country as the rest of the world looks at us.
Okay.
We had a good night last night in Iowa, and I know you think that's silly, but everything we can feel, it's good. Here's the deal: we think we're going to come out of there really doing well, but be careful what you say because it's not done yet. I know the Iowa Democratic Party is trying to work through all the issues with that application. They had that app and other problems. I said last night, let's give them time. And I'm not being critical. Let's give them time to work out those issues carefully and deliberately because a lot depends on it.
Hey, man, I somebody stumble over words. Quit picking on Joe.
Okay. All right. We'll wait till you get to pick on him. But, those are the updates. We'll keep you posted on that tonight. 1354 West Wabansia at the Hideout. If you got nothing going on, it'd be great if you join us. It's a debate between one avid Sanders supporter and one avid Elizabeth Warren supporter. Carlos Ramirez Rosa, Brandon Johnson, Ben Joravsky, and Maya Dukmasova in the middle of it. You guys need like a whistle and a referee shirt to referee this thing. It's tonight at the Hideout. Make sure you join us. If you can't join us, don't worry. It'll be posted on the Ben Joravsky Show Facebook page at Benny J Show. BENNY, the letter J Show.
All right. I give Biden credit. He at least didn't declare a victory like Pete Buttigieg, which is pretty.
I mean, it's pretty Trumpy of Buttigieg to do that, and Trump won.
Yeah, Trump won. He won. He beat William Weld. Yeah, that's correct. That is correct, Robert Mueller. All right. So I was watching the Super Bowl, big football fan, and I'll refrain from disparaging the Bears for somehow or other not drafting Patrick Mahomes and instead trading up to get Mitch Trubisky. Wow. All right. So, and that guy still has his job who did that. So I will refrain from doing all that, even though I just did that, Anthony Clarke.
I hear you.
One of the things I experienced when I watched the Super Bowl was Donald John Trump's commercial. Now, you missed it, so I'll explain what it was. It was a 30-second spot.
Okay.
He brought two of them. One he aired during the Super Bowl, and one he aired in the postgame. The postgame one was a celebration of everything he's done from his worldview, which makes him like the greatest man
collusion.
in the world. Thank you. Whew, I had to remember that one. Thank you. And the one that appeared in the Super Bowl was an interesting take. It featured a woman whose name is Alice Marie Johnson. And Alice Marie Johnson was convicted of drug trafficking charges. She's from Memphis, Tennessee, and was sentenced to life imprisonment in the 1990s. Her case was taken up by Kim Kardashian West. I know you know who Kim Kardashian is. And it got to Donald Trump's attention, and he commuted her sentence. And when she got out, the 64-year-old black woman from Memphis got out. She said, quote, "I want to thank President Donald John Trump." And the 30-second spot shows the buildup to that moment where she says, "I want to thank President Donald John Trump." I have my theories what Trump was doing with that commercial. What's your reaction to that?
Yeah, definitely. A message we try to preach and put out there is that, again, the issues that we face are systemic. So even if we remove Trump from this equation, what I'm discussing is one person doesn't have to be racist to purport or support a racist system, so on and so forth, sexist, so on and so forth. The systems that we are within have the systemic issues that exist. So if you look at an individual like Donald Trump, it's similar to, in a sense, I have a black friend. Just because you have a black friend or a woman friend or a friend with a disability does not mean you cannot be racist, does not mean you cannot be sexist, does not mean you cannot be ableist. So yeah, he may have helped one individual, but look at the policies that he supports. Look at his history. I could go back to the Central Park Five, where he called for their death. I could go back to his management of properties with his father, to where individuals that look like this woman, who I'm thankful she's out, I'm thankful she has her freedom, were kicked out of their homes, were forced out of their homes, which probably interconnected them to crime, which interconnected them to danger. So, okay, thanks, Trump. Thanks for helping one individual. But how are you helping the collective? How are you helping this planet? How are you helping America? Because black people as a whole, brown people as a whole, whoever you may be, you're not supporting policies or creating policies that lead to collective empowerment, to lead to the building of generational social and economic wealth. It's extremely narcissistic and, individually beneficial to say, look, I helped a black person over here. Look at me. Aren't I great? But again, what have you done for the community? Mm-hmm. And that's how I separate that. Like, again, a broke clock is right, what, twice a day? Is that what they say? A broke clock is right twice a day. So you can have individuals that have done something that's good. Mm-hmm. You can have individuals that may have a diverse friend or friends, but that doesn't mean that they are actually good people. Mm-hmm. And that doesn't mean that because one person is your friend, that he actually, she actually, or they actually care about the empowerment of your people. Mm-hmm. And that's how I separate that. So I find it kind of disgusting in a sense. Like, I'm thankful this woman is out. Mm-hmm. I'm so thankful she's out. But I find it disgusting that he would try to profit from that socially and economically and parade this woman around in a sense of, look how great I am, because it's not about that.
Especially if the profit he gets is, let's say, I don't know, I doubt any black person is going to vote for him based on that commercial. But what I think it's really intended to do is to assure white people that, to alleviate whatever tinge of guilt they may feel about voting for Donald John Trump.
Yeah.
And so, well, the black lady said he was good,
no
so
question.
I'll vote
No
for
question.
her.
I mean, it's tantamount essentially to having a Black Lives Matter sign in your front yard, but you've never had a black person in your house, or if somebody comes to your door and they're black and they knock on it, you're not going to open it up. Like, it's virtue signaling. It means absolutely nothing until you're truly pushing policy, until you're truly preaching something that, again, is about the collective empowerment, because individualism throughout history has been sold to us. Mm-hmm. Within a capitalistic society, it's about, strap yourself up by your bootstraps and you can make it. But again, that's not the case. That's not true. When you have a government locally and federally that has directly played roles in ensuring that collective group of individuals have a harder time making it.
All right, now I'm going to explore the inner paranoia in you, the inner Bernie Sanders in you.
Mm-hmm.
It has been suggested to me very strongly by many of my friends who love Bernie dearly, mm-hmm. that the breakdown of the computers in Iowa was no coincidence, mm-hmm. that the results would probably show that Bernie Sanders was going to win. Right. I know many Bernie Sanders supporters believe this.
Right.
And they figured, the Dems had the breakdown of the computers to deny Bernie his moment mm-hmm. In the sun. I'm not saying I believe it. I'm going to shield my opinion on this subject. Right. I ask you, do you believe that as a Bernie Sanders supporter?
That's a great question. First and foremost, I'm 100% for ranked choice voting and paper ballots. I want to put that out there. We need to move away from this antiquated, archaic system that's inequitable. And if you can, I did make a list, because I'm not gonna. I made a quick list.
Go ahead.
Because I woke up this morning upset and angry. So oftentimes I write.
Okay.
As therapy. It's therapeutic for me.
I'm with you 100%.
So I woosah'd and wrote down.
And I love how you do it with a pen and paper.
I'm old school. Old school. So I put Iowa on top in big letters, and then I just had some bullet points in regards to why Iowa was extremely problematic. Iowa was 90% white. This caucus yesterday took an extraordinary amount of time and commitment. So if you're a working class individual, if you have children, you most likely cannot dedicate this amount of time to being part of this process. I don't think it was fair to people with disabilities. It was extremely hard for them to participate. Felons cannot vote in Iowa. This app that they utilized had a major coding error. That's what they're saying. Some reported that the app could not be downloaded, and the state party did not help them when they reached out. I read that Homeland Security offered to test the app prior to, and they were turned down. Mobile apps were not part of the caucus chair training. So even in their training, they were not trained on these applications. As we talked about earlier, what type of name is Shadow Inc.? They're just
Just raise questions.
Right. Like Shadow Inc. I don't like if you need someone to stay up. Like if that was your job description, you wouldn't hire somebody from Sleepy Inc. You know, like I don't know, but you like doesn't make sense. And then I saw like I almost threw my water when I saw individuals deciding delegates based upon coin flips. Like individuals are truly fighting for their lives. You know, many individuals are looking at 2020 as that year. As that year where we truly make a decision and choose, is this for our future or are we going to die because of our past? So yes, I do believe that it goes beyond simply an error, beyond simply just incompetence, because I think throughout history, some incompetence is purposeful. You know, I'm not going to push, extreme conspiracy theories. Of course, I'm for Bernie, but I truly want to preach out to individuals, no matter who you're for, no matter who comes out at the end of this, hopefully by 5 p.m., you should have a problem with this process. It's ridiculous, and it's an embarrassment to the DNC. We're looking at you, Tom Perez. Like, come on, bro. Like, really? Like, this is the best we have to offer. So I do feel at the end of the day, based upon, all our candidates are prepared. So I do believe we're going to get the actual results. Like, the results are going to be factual. But I do believe a delay does help other candidates in a sense, because if we look at it weeks and weeks before this, who was polling extremely high? Joe Biden. Biden was in first, maybe second, but he was polling first or second. To have a result impactfully come out last night that Joe Biden was in like fourth, that's it. That's it. I mean, how are you viable if you can't win Iowa? So I think there's purpose to that, as well as someone like Bernie Sanders, who I'm supporting. Other individuals may be supporting Elizabeth Warren, but if you look at that progressive component to it, that kind of muffles their impact in the sense of that progress. Seeing a progressive candidate win Iowa and kind of, spearhead that into the next, New Hampshire and going forward, that builds momentum. But yet we're talking about this.
You know what? You're absolutely correct. Now, I'm not ready to say that the powers that be shut down the vote count to deny Bernie his chance. And I have many dear friends who say that and will be telling me that all night and all week. I got the phone calls starting last night from many of them.
I called you too, Ben. You didn't pick up. No,
I just didn't pick up. I did not. Oh, my goodness. I had this one Bernie Sanders supporter on the phone ripping MSNBC. They know Bernie supporters on that. Say, go on your show today and let them have it, blah, blah, blah. So I understand it exists, but your analysis was spot on. Got to give you credit. Everything that you listed, even getting away from the conspiracy theories, just dealing with the reality of what Iowa represents and how they set it up is ridiculous. It's the number one state. But I will say this here, last point. In 2008, Barack Obama's victory in Iowa gave him the momentum, just what you were talking about, to move on. Black people their attitude turned. You know this as well as I do, Anthony Clarke, because you're old. You're a young guy, but you're old enough to remember how people started talking about Barack after he won in 2008.
Exactly.
And to deny whoever the victor was in Iowa does trip them up.
Whoever the victor is, and that's the message that I'm putting out. Clearly, I have an issue with it, but whoever you support, and think about the individuals who gave their time and energy to engage in this process. Everyone should have a problem with this. We need to call it out. And one last thing I would like to say, I salute the people of Iowa. We're fighting for you. Struggle exists in Iowa just like it exists in Chicago. But there also should be a problem with the fact that Iowa is 90% white. Because if you look at it, our nation is a diverse nation, correct? We're looking for leaders to take us into the future that understands, celebrates, and works with diversity within this class struggle. So an issue that I may have with Iowa is you can have a candidate, I won't name names, that may show well in Iowa based upon, for a certain extent of that is 90% white, but they're not going to show. They're not going to be viable moving on to the election. So I think that's a huge issue because individuals may look at that and say, oh, this candidate here, based upon Iowa, is viable, but they have no chance based upon their national polling to do anything in regards to the rest of the election. So I think that needs to be called out and talked about also. I know you mentioned should it be moved to Illinois. I definitely think that needs to be discussed.
I'm for it 100%. I'm 4 to 100. I got to give old J.B. Pritzker credit for that one. I hadn't thought about it until Dennis told me, hey, J.B. Pritzker put out a text saying we should move it to Illinois.
Right. Not to say Illinois is not corrupt now. Like we have our long list of individuals that have been in the clink.
They'll go play some bets on the winners now.
Right. Not to say we're not corrupt. We're an extremely corrupt state.
Well, I got to say that we are corrupt. We have our issues with corruption, as we like to point out in the Ben Joravsky Show. We have a lot of fun pointing out all the corruption that exists in Illinois. But I will say this. Since 2006, we've done a better job. 2006 was a debacle when it of the election machines.
Mm-hmm.
We've done a better job of counting our votes than Iowa did last.
Oh, no question.
I just never remember an Illinois election where they just delayed the vote count.
I mean,
the computer broke down.
People were broken. People were like just broke. I mean, it was depressing.
Yeah.
It really was, and it's still depressing. But no question, we definitely need to move forward. And Illinois. I think. I'm excited about Illinois. We got a lot of young leaders out there fighting. And
all right, now before we go, tell folks where they can get a hold of you if they like what they heard, even if they don't like what they heard.
Yeah, trust me, I get hate mail. I get angry emails as well. But no, you can look at us at voteanthonyclarke.com. That's our website, voteanthonyclarke.com. That's Clarke without an E, Clark. Once again, voteanthonyclarke.com. All of our social media accounts, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. That's Anthony V. Clarke 20, the number 20, Anthony V. Clarke 20. The election takes place March 17th. I want to send a sincere appreciation and thank you to all the believers and supporters of our role in this movement because it's bigger than us. Our endorsements have increased tenfold. I mean, it's been huge, our volunteer base. So it's been wonderful. So if you're looking for a fighter, if you're looking for someone that is pushing the class struggle, class warfare, and is trying to unite individuals of all working class backgrounds to move us forward as communities, we're the team for you. We're the movement for you. So we hope to earn your vote on March 17th, and we're going to continue to be out here fighting. And one last thing, if I can, Ben, before I go, shout out to the Real Shy, because elections come and go, candidates come and go. This is actually bigger than us. I'm going to be sharing an article that came out in the Real Shy a couple days ago. But essentially what we're challenging the other candidates in this race outside of Danny K. Davis, the incumbent, and if he wants to get involved, he can as well. If it's truly about moving the communities forward, I'm challenging all candidates to let's put it on a poll. We know how expensive polls are. They're not always reliable, but let's put it on a poll. And if we put this poll out, if we determine who's running second, because it's bigger than me. If I'm not running second, I will step down. I will step out of the race and support the individual that's running second because I truly believe in our communities. So I challenge the other candidates in this race to hear me, to let's do this, let's get together, because I believe it's bigger than one individual.
So in other words, if a poll shows that you're second, or you're third, you would drop out. Who would you support?
Whoever is second, outside of Danny K. Davis.
I see,
because
gotcha.
again, I thank him for his service, but I do believe it's time for change.
So that's a shout out basically to Keena Collins, who was on the show last week.
Right, and Kristen, I don't want to mispronounce her last name, Schonbacher as well. She's running. Tracy Jennings is running as an independent. But yeah, to Keena and Kristen, I know the article reached out to the both of you, but I'm going to continue to push this. I think it's extremely important because when you have multiple candidates within a race, I think we know how that often helps the incumbent. Yeah. And by design, sometimes incumbents have people running to kind of eat into that progressive vote, so that grassroots vote.
Speaking of political corruption in Chicago. All right, very good. Anthony Clarke,
awesome.
Thank you very much. It's always a pleasure talking politics with you.
Thank you. This has been wonderful.
And Mae Whiteside, want to thank her as well. Maya Dukmasova earlier in the show. And, of course, the man, the myth, the legend, the pride of joy in Alton. And as Anthony Clarke can tell you, back home in Alton, they call him White Lightning. Give yourself a raise, take it out of petty cash. See you tomorrow, everybody.
You'll call me Dennis one day. And remember, you can download previous Ben Joravsky shows and Benny J bonus interviews at both Chicago Sun-Times and Chicago Reader websites and wherever else you download your favorite podcasts. Downloaders, we live stream this program. It's true. Tuesdays through Fridays, 1 until 3 p.m. Central Time at both Chicago Sun-Times and Chicago Reader websites and the Chicago Sun-Times YouTube channel. If you want to join us on the live stream chat, go to YouTube, find Chicago Sun-Times, join us. And welcome to the madhouse that is the Ben Joravsky Show live stream chat. Shout out to everyone who joined us today. Thank you for downloading. Find us on social media at Benny J Show, BENNY, the letter J Show. We'll see you tomorrow. Oh, and the Hideout tonight, 1354 West Wabansia. Be there.
Big problems become big problems when you let small problems sit.